Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351. All members are sealed. Have you adapted to everything? Probably. I'm basically familiar with the new soul skills and new powers. Then congratulations on completing the third round of assessment in Kyankan Asking Love Valley. Now, all of you can leave at any time, no hurry. Oh, I have to go to this sea princess to discuss something first. Are you starting to prepare so soon? It's not early, and didn't you say that my next round of assessment will not start until the next era? In that case, isn't it normal for me to set up a few more plans in this era in advance to facilitate my completion of the assessment later? Prepare for a rainy day. Then I'll see how you perform. I won't let you down. With a flash of blue light, Tang Liu appeared in Kyankan Asking Love Valley. The moment he appeared, the 5 young men and women who were practicing in it stopped practicing one after another, as if they had sensed something, opened their eyes, and looked at Tang Liu. Tang Liu's eyes swept through them one by one, and saw through their current soul power levels. He nodded in satisfaction, and then said, "Not bad. I will give you the last month. You must all practice to level 90. I will stay here with you for 10 days. After 10 days, I will go to deal with some unfinished things. At that time, those who reach level 90 ahead of time can leave with me, and those who fail to reach it will continue to stay here to practice." Several people looked at each other, then nodded at the same time, and then continued to meditate and practice. It seems that it is an impossible task to practice to level 90 in 1 month. However, among the 5 people, Yilingling, the lowest level, has already reached level 83, and the highest is not Mu Jing or Lu Qifen, but Su Yu and Su Chen, a pair of siblings. The 2 people's cultivation is synchronized, and now they are both at level 86. The next is Lu Qifen, who has a soul core, at level 85, and Mu Jing is a little worse than him, at level 84. Now, they are all soul Douluo, and they are all soul Douluo with at least one 100,000-year soul ring. It can be said that, except for the number of people, any of them, whether in martial spirit, cultivation, or spirit ring, is no worse than the Shrek 7 devils. After seeing them enter into meditation again, Tang Liu also sat down cross-legged, and then released his third martial spirit, the Haolan spell. 9 circles of blue-black spirit rings rose one after another, surrounding Tang Liu. The next moment, an extremely mysterious aura filled the entire Kyankan Valley in an instant. Every strand of soul power that overflowed from Tang Liu's body turned into star-like light and dispersed towards the location of the 5 people. As Tang Liu released more and more soul power, those blue light spots became more and more dense, and finally formed a blue-black mist that filled the bodies of several people. And being in the blue-black mist, their cultivation speed became extremely fast. But this is not over yet. Tang Liu just spoke at this time. What is Hao? The vast and boundless is Hao. The thick and powerful is also Hao. What is Lan? The endless vitality is Lan. The vast and boundless is also Lan. What is Fa? The law is to change fate against the will of heaven, and the law is also Fa. What is Shu? The ever-changing is Shu, and the fate is also Shu. He didn't say a word. And the few people who were practicing found that the speed of their soul power would double. Because the martial soul fusion degree was increased to 100%, Su Yu and Su Chen, who were practicing together with a martial soul fusion, found that their soul power had broken through to level 87 in the next moment. The second biggest beneficiary was naturally Lu Qifen, who had a soul core. The blue-black light mist that he didn't have time to absorb, the soul core would greedily help him absorb it, and after a simple assimilation, it would become his own soul power, thereby rapidly improving his cultivation. Moreover, in the process of the soul core constantly devouring, he himself was also practicing non-stop. So, 1 day later, he also broke through level 85 and cultivated to level 86. Another day, Yilingling broke through to level 84, and Mu Jing also cultivated to level 85. 5 days later, Su Yu and Su Chen cultivated to level 89. Lu Qifeng was level 88, Mu Jing was level 87, and Yilingling was level 86. On the 8th day, Su Yu and Su Chen successfully condensed their soul cores and cultivated to level 90, and Tang Liu asked them to start absorbing soul rings. On the same day, Lu Qiufeng cultivated to level 89, and Tang Liu began to help him condense the second soul core. Of course, it was by the method of isotopic resonance. After all, Lu Qiufeng's physical strength is not yet able to withstand the complementation of yin and yang, and not everyone can have an extremely casual condensation process of yin and yang complementation like Tang Liu. On the 9th day, Lu Qiufeng successfully condensed the second soul core in the middle danshan, broke through to level 90, and began to absorb his 9th soul ring. Su Yu and Su Chen cultivated to level 92. Mu Jing cultivated to level 89, and Tang Liu began to let her condense the first soul core. On the same day, Mu Jing completed the condensation of the first soul core, cultivated to level 90, and began to absorb the 9th soul ring. On the 10th day, Yi Lingling cultivated to level 89, and Tang Liu began to help her condense the first soul core. Because Lu Qiufeng had 2 soul cores, his cultivation speed caught up with Su Yu and Su Chen, and the 3 of them were now at level 93. Mu Jing was only 1 step behind them, and she would soon be able to break through to level 93. At the end of the 10th day, Yi Lingling successfully condensed the soul core and absorbed her 9th soul ring, becoming a level 91 auxiliary title Douluo. On the 11th day, the 6 did not leave Kyankan asking Love Valley, but began to brainstorm and give each other titles. On the same day, Tang Liu began to concentrate on cultivation, intending to cultivate his soul power, which had fallen back to level 91, back to level 96. So far, they have all become title Douluo. And they are all title Douluo who have at least 1 soul core. Just based on this point, their combat power has surpassed most of the title Douluo on the Douluo continent. Among them, the oldest was only 27 or 28 years old, and the youngest was only 22 or 23. It took them all only 10 days to break through from Soul Douluo to title Douluo. This was a miracle beyond Tang Liu's expectations. Although he also consumed the soul power of title Douluo level 5, it was not a problem for him now. On the 12th day, all 6 people left Kyankan Wenking Valley and returned to Douluo continent. When they arrived at this familiar continent again, they started to move non-stop. Tang Liu and Mu Jing went to Xiandao City, and the remaining 4 took a carriage to Xingluo Empire. Tang Liu took Mu Jing to find out the current situation on the continent, and the other 4 people were carrying a task assigned by Tang Liu. Chapter 352 Angel God. Xingluo Empire, outside Xingluo City. A carriage that was so fast that it was difficult to see with the naked eye slowly descended from the sky and stopped in an open space. In the carriage, Lu Qiufeng, Yi Lingling, Su Yu and Su Chen stood together. After feeling the carriage stop, the other 3 looked at Lu Qiufeng. Lu Qiufeng nodded gently, and then summoned Jiu Feng. Yellow, purple, black, 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 red, a total of 9 soul rings also appeared with Jiu Feng. He looked at the small rooms in the carriage that were surrounded by extremely simple wooden boards, and then took a deep breath and swung his sword gently. The sharp and cold sword light flashed and cut off all the rooms from the carriage. He then swung his sword again, and the carriage was immediately broken and damaged, allowing several people to leave the carriage and come out. Lu Qiufeng controlled the sword energy and brought the 6 small rooms out of the broken wood blocks of the carriage and placed them neatly aside. Looking at it this way, it looked like 6 coffins were neatly placed on the open space. Lu Qiufeng then glanced at the 3 people beside him and said, "Let's go." Several people nodded silently, and then each walked to the room that belonged to them, and then put it into their own storage soul guide. Lu Qiufeng also put Tang Liu, Mu Jing and his own small room into the storage soul guide, and then raised the sword fire, burning the wreckage of the carriage, of course, and the 2 puppet horses. Watching these gradually turn into ashes in the flames, several people suddenly felt reluctant. Even though, in fact, they have now become title Douluo who can shake the world. But that kind of reluctance came so suddenly. Xiandao City. After some inquiries, Tang Liu knew one thing, that is, Bibi Dong, the queen of the Wuhan Empire, went to the Xingdao Great Forest not long ago to carry out a secret soul hunting operation. In this way, Tang Liu roughly knew where the plot was going now. So he immediately took Mu Jing away from Xiandao City and came to Wuhan City. The 2 quietly came to the outside of Douluo Hall. With the help of the virtual spirit, no one could discover their existence, even Jin Daoliu who was in the Douluo Hall at the moment. 3 days later, Tang Liu's guess was confirmed, because the entire Douluo Hall began to emit a sacred golden light. And there is only one possibility, That is, someone is inheriting the position of God. Tang Liu's purpose of taking Mu Jing was also very simple, that is, he wanted to take this opportunity to let Mu Jing feel the power of the God level. So far, if he is not mistaken, Lu Qifeng, Yi Lingling, Su Yu, and Su Chen, these four have already recognized their own hearts. Although I don't know when Lu Qifeng and Yi Lingling realized it, it is naturally better to recognize their own hearts now. Now, among his team members, only Mu Jing is left, and she has not yet recognized her own heart. This may be one of the reasons why her training speed was only slightly faster than Yi Lingling's when everyone was training together in Kyankin Wenking Valley. Do you still remember what you asked me in Haoshan City? Mu Jing looked at the sacred golden light bursting out from the Douluo hall with shock in her eyes. She listened to Tang Liu's question, thought for a short time, and then said, "It's the heart that I represent." Tang Liu nodded and said, "Now, the killing heart, the benevolent heart, the ruthless heart, and the regretless heart have all found their respective owners. Which of the remaining sincere heart, fighting heart, evil heart, true heart, and monarch heart is you?" Mu Jing shook her head and looked at the sacred golden light in confusion. "I don't know." Tang Liu smiled lightly and said, "Don't worry, now is the time for you to find the answer." He raised his hand lightly, and the Haolan magic was released automatically, and the blue-black soul ring ranked first was bright at this moment. "Close your eyes and feel it slowly." Tang Liu said the last sentence, and then he concentrated on controlling the Haolan mark left in the Douluo hall by Su Yu and Su Chen. Su Chen turned back and made a running posture, looking back at Jinringsu who kept raising her legs. The next moment, the whole person turned into purple-black light and disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he had come to a corner on the east side of the Douluo hall. He just stretched out his hand and slapped the wall, and then his figure turned into purple-black light again and dissipated on the spot. This time, he appeared somewhere on the west side of the Douluo hall and stepped on the wall. While his figure was flying in the air, his figure turned into purple-black light again and dissipated, and then appeared on the south side of the Douluo hall. In this way, Su Chen slapped or kicked all the key positions in the Douluo hall, and finally returned to the room at the beginning. He looked up at Jinringsu who was still raising her feet, smiled softly, and then merged into the shadow under her feet and disappeared completely. Mu Jing closed her eyes as Tang Liu said. The blue-black light of the Haolan spell became stronger. In the Douluo hall, the Haolan marks on those key positions that no one except Tang Liu could see began to emit blue-black light. And the positions where these Haolan marks were located, connected together, seemed to be a magic circle. In this magic circle, the sacred golden light belonging to the angel god was also completely suppressed by the profound and mysterious blue-black light. But no one except Tang Liu could see this scene. This bright blue-black light soon covered the sacred golden light, and gradually enveloped Tang Liu and Mu Jing outside. Mu Jing closed her eyes and felt a warm and cool feeling suddenly swept over her body, and then her body had a momentary feeling of falling and emptying. Then, she subconsciously opened her eyes. Then she saw a void in front of her. And in this void, a beautiful blonde figure, with golden wings spread out behind her, walked towards the top of the void step by step. And there, stood a person. Tang Liu. Mu Jing was a little confused, wondering why Tang Liu, who was standing next to her just now, would appear there at this moment. And she also knew who that beautiful blonde figure was. The saint of Douluo Palace, Jinringsu. At this moment, Jinringsu exuded an endless sacred aura, and her beautiful face seemed to be covered with a layer of divine light, making her look extremely divine. Her step-by-step upward movement looked as if she was undergoing some kind of baptism and accepting a coronation. With every step she took, the divinity on her body would become stronger. And this also made Mu Jing realize that Jinringsu was becoming a true god. Chapter 353, Fighting for Heart. Her heart was instantly filled with shock. It was because of the gods. The legends of gods were probably familiar to every soul master, but few people could see them with their own eyes. But now, she saw with her own eyes the process of a god being born. The oppressive feeling of the gods was clearly captured by all her senses. And she couldn't help but feel like worshipping. And this feeling was getting stronger as Jinringsu gradually approached Tang Liu. But no. Absolutely not. Are you willing to join the spirit hall? Why should I join the spirit hall? Join our spirit hall, and you will have everything you want. Moreover, with the spirit you possess, plus your innate talent of full spirit power, perhaps you will even have the possibility of becoming the saint of our spirit hall and the next pope of the spirit hall. Saint? Pope? Is that impressive? Of course. It is destined that you will be the one who can call the wind and rain in the future Douluo continent. Really, of course it is true. Once you join our Spirit Hall, we will send you to the Spirit Hall Academy, which is the best Spirit Master Academy in our entire continent. It is the team that has won the championship of the All-Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Competition 4 consecutive years. After you continue your studies in the Spirit Hall Academy, you may have the opportunity to represent the Spirit Hall Academy to participate in the All-Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Competition. Either way, it is the supreme honor. Then I want to join the Spirit Hall. Okay, good girl. But the 6-year-old girl never lived to see the day when the promise would be fulfilled. She was sent to an ordinary junior Soul Master Academy and trained until she reached the level of a great Soul Master. She thought she could finally go to the Spirit Hall Academy, but she was sent to the Botanical Academy, a not-so-good high-level Soul Master Academy. From this time on, the naive little girl began to slowly understand something. Until the man in black made her realize the reality. So absolutely not. Spirit Hall? Isn't it just a Spirit Hall? Without you, I can still become a child of destiny, and I can still participate in the elite competition of high-level Soul Master Academies across the continent. I can also defeat the championship team that you are proud of and let myself sit on the throne of the champion. She, Mu Jing, does not need the Spirit Hall to call the wind and rain on the continent. Isn't it just becoming a god? What's wrong with being a god? One day, she, Mu Jing, will reach that height. No need to rely on the Spirit Hall, only on herself. Mu Jing has never had a moment when her mind is as clear as it is now. The moment her spirit awakened, it actually pointed out her future. She was destined to be the plum blossom that blooms only once every 100 years in the severe cold. She was destined to be the 7-star plum blossom that competes with other flowers for beauty. Her life had long been full of competition. And she was not afraid of competition. She was so strong. It was because of her heart. She had a competitive heart. From the moment Mu Jing recognized it clearly, the pressure of the gods no longer had any effect on her. She finally glanced at Jin Ringsu, who had arrived in front of Tang Liu, and then opened her eyes in reality. What came into view was still the White Douluo Palace. It seems that you succeeded. A familiar voice sounded beside her, and Mu Jing turned her head and saw the figure of Tang Liu. It seemed that Tang Liu in the void was just an illusion. Mu Jing did not say much, but just said, I am still curious about the heart you represent. Guess, Tang Liu said so. Mu Jing, forget it, Tang Liu smiled. Okay, since you have recognized yourself, then go and meet up with Lu Qifeng and the others. Don't forget what I told you. Mu Jing nodded gently. Don't worry, I won't forget it. Tang Liu waved his hand and prepared to teleport her away. At this time, Mu Jing said, goodbye. Tang Liu was stunned for a moment, and smiled. Goodbye. As soon as the voice fell, Mu Jing disappeared in a blue-black light. Tang Liu put his hands behind his back and sighed. Although we can see each other again in a while, we can only say goodbye now. But as soon as the voice fell, his expression suddenly became a little weird. He twisted his body unnaturally and said to himself, strange, why do I feel like I have been raped? He looked back at the Douluo Hall, and always felt that he seemed to have grasped something, but his subconscious seemed to prevent him from thinking further, so for a long time, he had no clue and didn't understand why. Forget it, it's more important to go to the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Jin Ringsu is completing the last divine test. That is to inherit the throne of the angel god. And in order to open this last divine test for her, her grandfather Jin Daoliu has sacrificed himself. In other words, she has no way back. She must successfully inherit the throne of the angel god. Otherwise, it would be unfair to her grandfather's death. She gradually climbed in the void of this inheritance land, as if walking along an invisible high platform. The higher she went, the more she felt that her affinity with the throne of the angel god was getting higher and more compatible. When she was about to reach the top, she couldn't help but have an illusion that she was already the angel god. But she knew that she was not yet. Because at the end of the high platform, stood a figure that always made her have very complicated feelings. She was a congenital level 20 full soul power, with an absolutely top martial soul like an angel, and the blood of the angel god flowing in her body. She was an absolute child of destiny. He was also a congenital level 20 full soul power, the first 3-life martial soul in the history of the continent, a direct disciple of the Haoshan sect, possessed the top weapon martial soul Haoshan hammer, and the mysterious blue-black martial soul, and was also an absolute child of destiny. But she always ran into obstacles in front of him, and was at a disadvantage every time she competed with him. It was as if he was her natural nemesis. She felt that she should hate him, because his father killed her father. But she didn't have much affection for her father at all, because she had never seen her father in person. What's more, the murderer who really killed her father was not his father. But she felt that she should still hate him. Because of their first meeting, he made her suffer a great loss. After that, it was as if some inexplicable switch was turned on. Every action of hers would be destroyed by him just right, and she could hardly even see him. It was precisely because of his interference that their Wuhan Hall stumbled in the subsequent planning. Therefore, she felt that she should hate him. But the thing called milk tea and the cake, these new and novel things she had never seen before, really made her like the taste. Chapter 354 Love and Hate. He could have easily dealt with her every time. But he always just competed with her. When he won, he would taunt her a little and encourage her to come again next time. Why? They were obviously enemies. He had given her such a strong warning the first time they met. He was targeting her everywhere. But why didn't he just do it? Either he could deal with her quickly and neatly, or for a long time, she didn't know what kind of feelings she had for him. She admired his talent, but it was a pity that he couldn't use it for her own benefit. She also hated him for disrupting her plans many times and causing her to fail. She seemed to have an inexplicable feeling about him, especially when they met again in Yuxun. When she recognized him, she admitted that she had a sense of amazement that she had never had before. It was like a glimpse, but she looked at it seriously and carefully. Her heart beat so violently for the first time, and she also experienced a feeling she had never had before for the first time. She almost didn't have a childhood. Because when she was very young, she replaced Zhu Qing's position in order to complete the plan of the Spirit Hall. She has been learning how to hide herself better since she was a child, until she was very familiar with it. But this familiar hiding also made her almost lose herself. Every day, she thought about how to hide herself better, so that others would not discover her true identity, and thought about her plan to overthrow the Xiandao Empire. Her mind was always full of these, and there was no spare space to think about anything else. And when a person who could make her have drastic emotional ups and downs and make her extremely curious appeared, she fell unconsciously. She wanted to know where he was. Want to know what he was doing now. Also want to know who he was with. Want to follow his footsteps, see the places he had seen, and hear the sounds he had heard. But how could the saint of the Spirit Hall follow the footsteps of her enemy? So she pretended to be against him, and sent a large number of people to follow his footsteps, see the places he had seen, and hear the sounds he had heard. She silently read the notes sent by those people, imagining that she was also following in his footsteps, seeing the places he had seen, and hearing the sounds he had heard. But what the former saint had not expected was that such an unconscious behavior had gradually become a poison that she fed herself with her own hands. It was out of control. Then one day, the saint, who no longer wanted to just look at the notes sent back by her subordinates alone, decided to go on her own. At this time, the notes sent by her subordinates wrote about the places he had been to and stayed for a long time. So she couldn't bear it. She knew that no one knew the little tricks in her heart, so in the eyes of others, she was just chasing her enemies. So, under this pretext, she took a group of people and rushed into the Xingluo palace. She was not wrong, he was really here. But he didn't seem to want to see her. He even asked others to convey a message to her. It's nice to see you again, and I'm glad you've reached level 98. Also, I hope everything goes well for you when you inherit the throne of the angel god. But now is still not the right time for you to see me. When the time comes, we will all get together again, and it will be just the right time to make a final conclusion. Since you are so happy to see me, why don't you come and say this to me in person? Are you treating this as another contest? Jin Ringsu laughed at herself lightly, and then looked at Tang Liu in front of her. I hope everything goes well for me when I inherit the throne of the angel god. He really knows everything. With him like this, how can she win? However, thank you for your blessing. I will just take it as your blessing for me. In the silent void, Jin Ringsu whispered softly, of course everything will go well. Her palm gently patted the shoulder of Tang Liu in front of her. So the clothes on Tang Liu's body in front of her instantly exploded into countless scattered fragments. She came forward and hugged Tang Liu in front of her, resting her chin on his shoulder, and said with her red lips, my enemy, My enemy sunset forest, yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. Tang Liu turned into a stream of light and fell from the sky. As soon as he stood firm and emerged from the stream of light, he shouted, "Dad, Mom, I'm back, did you miss me?" After that, he saw the handsome man standing by the pool in the huge blue silver emperor. So Tang Liu was stunned for a moment. He walked over with some confusion, and asked, "What's going on? My brother hasn't come back yet." His eyes lit up with a blue light, and after looking at the blue silver emperor, he learned the current situation of the blue silver emperor. Yin's cultivation seemed to be stuck at 99,999 years. For some reason, he could not break through to 100,000 years. The blue light gathered, and the shadow of Yin appeared. She came up and gave Tang Liu a big hug. "Mom's little baby is finally back, come and hug Mom." Tang Liu blushed immediately. "Mom, how old am I?" Yin smiled and said, "What, you are no longer your child when you grow up?" Tang Liu had to smile and said, "Of course." Tang Hao also came over, but he had a sullen face and said in a stiff tone, "You finally know to come back to see your parents." So Tang Liu smiled and went over to hug Tang Hao, and said, "I missed you, Dad." So Tang Hao suddenly felt uncomfortable, coughed dryly, hesitated for a long time, and also hugged Tang Liu back. "I'm glad you're back." After greeting each other, Tang Liu began to ask Tang Hao and Yin about business. "Dad, isn't my brother back yet? Why hasn't Mom fully recovered yet?" Tang Hao and Yin looked at each other, and finally Yin spoke, "Your brother has come back, and it was your brother who helped me recover my cultivation to the current level." Tang Liu was even more confused. "Since Tang San has come back, why hasn't Yin recovered completely?" He said, "Mom, do you know that your cultivation is stuck at the 100,000 year mark?" Yin nodded gently. "Mom knows, it hasn't changed in such a long time." After a long silence, Yin nodded. Tang Hao then spoke, "Xiao Liu, do you have any solution?" Tang Liu shook his head and said, "I'm not sure, because I don't know the reason. The system was still offline, otherwise he would have asked directly. I'll check it for Mom first." He could only say this first. Tang Hao nodded gently and said, "Okay." Yin glared at him, but Tang Hao did not respond to her. Maybe it's because I wrote Xiao Liu too hard before, which made me feel that something was wrong when I wrote this Cyrillic letter Z. Also, our original plan of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, if we continue in this ascending order. It may not last for 10 because the author is about to finish writing. Anyway, the author will continue to write in this order. If he can hold on to 10 chapters, then it's fine. But if he can't hold on, then the author will release all the rest. But in this case, the explosive update will end. Anyway, I was quite surprised. I found something wrong while writing today. The plot ended so suddenly, just like the explosive update and the interruption of the update, Cyrillic letter Z. In addition, the author will find time to write the specific plot of this chapter. Maybe he will post it in the group? Then it's by Liu, Sam Liu, Hao Liu, Greek letter Omega. Chapter 355 Mother. A blue light wave was released from Tang Liu's palm, sweeping across the huge blue-silver emperor in front of him. Soon, the blue light flowed through every blade of the blue-silver emperor, and Tang Liu had already fully grasped Yin's current situation. Naturally, he also knew why Yin's cultivation was stuck at the 100,000 year mark. Because Yin is now an incomplete blue-silver emperor. Since it is incomplete, it is impossible to become a blue-silver emperor again. Moreover, now, there is already a successor to the blue-silver emperor, Tang San. Originally, Tang San's highest realm of blue-silver domain was enough to restore Yin's incomplete parts to their original state. But unfortunately, in this worldview, there is Tang Liu. He, like Tang San, also came from the blue-silver emperor. It was the power of the blue-silver emperor that condensed their bodies in this world. But originally there was only Tang San. But there was an extra Tang Liu. So the power of the blue-silver emperor was dispersed. In particular, in order to carry Tang Liu, a high-level soul from another world, the blue-silver emperor paid more. Later, Yin passed on the blue-silver emperor's position to Tang San, but it also meant that she and Tang San's power were no longer connected. Tang San had truly become an independent individual, a new emperor. But he hadn't. His virtual blue-silver emperor was still transformed by part of Yin's soul power. Yin didn't take back this power. If Yin wanted to be able to truly revive, he had to return this power to Yin. But a soul master lost his martial soul. In other words, this soul master was equivalent to losing his life. Even if Tang Liu had 3 martial souls. The blue light in Tang Liu's palm slowly went out. Yin saw it, Tang Liu knew it. So she sighed lightly and said to Tang Hao beside her, "Hao, I want to talk to Liu alone. Can you leave first?" Tang Hao was a little puzzled, but looking at his wife's pleading look, he nodded lightly, flew away from the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, leaving the space alone for the mother and daughter. But he did not go far. He just came to the valley where the yin-yang eye of ice and fire was located, leaned against a tree, hugged his arms, and stared at the ground in front of him with a dazed look. Tang Liu did not say anything until his ears could no longer hear Tang Hao's voice. He then said, "Mom, what should I do to return my martial spirit to you?" Yin sighed softly, and the vines of the blue-silver emperor grew and woven rapidly, forming a soft barrier behind her and under her feet. She sat down and smiled as she opened her arms to Tang Liu. Tang Liu hesitated for a moment, then flicked his wrist lightly, and the blue-gold light quickly spread throughout his body. Then, he turned into an energy form like Yin. After that, he walked over to Yin and sat down. Yin took advantage of the situation and hugged him over, letting him lean on her shoulder, and she also felt a long-lost touch. Yes, in this state, Tang Liu could touch Yin, and Yin could naturally touch Tang Liu. Yin closed her eyes, then a smile appeared on her lips, and she said, "Silly child, Mom can't let you die for me." Tang Liu refuted her and said, "I have 3 martial souls. What if I can't die?" So Yin tapped his forehead, "You can't take the risk, Mom, you have to believe me." Tang Liu looked at Yin very seriously, and said, "Even if I die after returning the martial soul to you, my soul will definitely remain. And now, even if only my soul is left, I should be able to survive. So, just tell me the method." Yin chuckled and shook her head. "No," Tang Liu asked her puzzledly. "Why?" Yin sighed, reached out to stroke his cheek, looking into his eyes, "Because, Mom is afraid that she will never see you again." Tang Liu was still puzzled, "But my soul is strong enough to show up directly. Mom, you can still see me." Yin just looked at him. "No, Mom is afraid of you." So she went back like this. Tang Liu's heart skipped a beat. Yin chuckled, but her tone was a little tearful. "Mom is afraid that after you are only a soul, you will be taken back to your world, and Mom will never see you again." Tang Liu opened his mouth, but he couldn't say anything no matter what. He looked at Yin, his eyes full of disbelief, confusion, and shock. Yin looked at his complicated expression and couldn't help laughing, but her eyes turned red in an instant. "You didn't expect it? Mom knows everything." Surprise. When she said the last 2 words, her voice had changed a lot because of the drastic ups and downs of her emotions. Tang Liu could only look at her in disbelief and couldn't say anything. Yin continued to speak, but as she spoke, a crystal tear slid down from the corner of her eye. Even if that tear was just pure energy. "Yes, Mom knows everything. I know that you come from another world, that world is more colorful than this one, and how suddenly you came to this world. I know everything about you, and I know that you are not actually my child. But so what? You came out of my belly, so I am your mother. I know that a soul covered with scars has moved into my body, but I am not afraid, nor do I feel disgusted. I only know that it must be a little guy who needs warmth, and I am willing to give him the warmth he wants. When I found out on the first day that there were suddenly 2 little lives in my body, do you know how happy I was that day? It was as if the sun, which has always given me sunshine in my life, also built a rainbow for me that day. I waited and looked forward to the day when you really came into this world. I kept imagining what you looked like and who you would be more like. Sometimes, I would even describe those imaginations, although most of them were ugly. I finally waited for the day when you were about to give birth. I look at you and can't stop thinking in my mind, look at you, you are so beautiful. I want to give you all the good things in the world, take you to see all the beautiful sights in the world, take you to eat all the delicious food in the world. I really want to stay with you forever, watch you grow up day by day, and find the changes in you every day compared to the day before with my own eyes, because you are my children who I have nurtured for 9 months. You are the treasures that flow with the blood of me and your father, you are everything to us." Chapter 356 The Past. But I had no choice. The people from the spirit hall were chasing us, and how could your father defeat so many people alone? I had no choice. Even though I couldn't bear to leave you, I had to save your father, even though I might never see you again in person in my life. At the last moment of sacrifice, I still couldn't let you go. I still wanted to take one last look at you, especially you, little guy. How could I let go of you? You came here so suddenly, and I didn't know if you were ready. I also didn't know if I was ready. Whether I could be a competent mother and bring you the warmth you wanted. Later, part of my soul power was placed on you. I watched you grow up, watched you get seriously ill, and huddled up in a small ball on the bed, listening to your every cough. At that time, I felt so distressed and wanted to take care of you in person, but I could do nothing but watch. I couldn't even help you scold your decadent father. When your martial spirit awakened, I was able to do more. Through the friend in your mind, I also truly knew for the first time the soul that fell into my body with bruises all over its body. I was fortunate to see your past several times, and I really understood why that soul was bruised all over its body, and why it longed for warmth so much. I don't know why you came to this world, but since you chose me, I will give you something you have never had before. Tang Liu looked at Yin, and he couldn't help but raise the corners of his lips slightly, but he couldn't help but burst into tears. He whispered, his voice trembling, "Now, I have it." Yin smiled and nodded, tears flowed through the corners of her eyes again, and she choked slightly. "Yes, you have me, your father, and your brother. You are no longer alone, and you won't feel lonely anymore." Tang Liu couldn't say anything, and could only nod again and again. He raised his head from time to time, and tried several times to stop the tears from breaking through the defenses of his eyes and falling, but the result was that his vision gradually became blurred. Yin hugged him, patted his back and said, "I don't care where you came from before. I only know that you are my child now, and I will not allow my child to have any accidents, nor will I allow my child to leave me forever because of any accidents." Tang Liu finally couldn't hold back the tears in his eyes. All the worries and fears in his heart before disappeared at this moment. He didn't know what kind of mood he was in now, but he could feel the irrepressible joy and unprecedented relief. Because, from this moment on, he would never become the lonely Tang Yu again. No matter what, here he always has a mother who is willing to accept everything about him. And he must restore his mother to the way she was before. No matter how heavy a price he has to pay for it. "Mom, don't worry, I will definitely find a way." Yin nodded gently, looked at Tang Liu again, and smiled. "Let's not talk about this. Mom wants to hear your story. Are you willing to tell it to Mom?" Tang Liu couldn't help laughing. "I don't have any story, I'm just an ordinary child. I only know that I have been staying in the orphanage since I can remember, and I grew up slowly in the orphanage with those children waiting to be adopted. I finished elementary school in the orphanage, and went to junior high school with those children who had not been adopted yet. Finally, I left the orphanage by myself, relying on odd jobs and some subsidies to support myself to go to high school. No one has come to this sunset forest for a long time, let alone the yin-yang eye of ice and fire located in Douluo's poison formation. Even Douluo himself has not been back for a long time. It is said that he has now cultivated to the 96th level and is assisting the Emperor Xiandao. In addition, with him here, Douluo doesn't want to come back even more. However, because of this, it has become very quiet here, and no one comes to disturb. He and his wife felt very comfortable here. A casual evening breeze could bring sounds from afar, allowing them to guess which soul beasts were fighting again, and their lives would not be too boring. But today, he was not in the mood to listen to the sounds brought by the wind. He just held his breath and listened attentively to the faint sounds coming from the valley. I remember that when I was about 5 years old, the director of the orphanage told us children that a couple would come to adopt children in a few days. Children of all ages were looking forward to this day, and I was looking forward to it too, because it was the first time I saw someone come to the orphanage to adopt children. After waiting for a long time, that day came. The couple asked the director about the situation of many children, and we peeked at them outside the director's office. Later, the couple began to give us the candies and cakes they brought. That should be the first time I ate candies and cakes. I think it is simply the most delicious thing in the world. All children will think so, and as long as they are lucky enough to be selected by the couple, they may be able to eat such delicious things all the time. As he listened, he always felt an indescribable emotion in his heart, which was very unpleasant. And unfortunately, that couple seemed to want to adopt me. Why do you feel unfortunate? Because the other children wanted them to be adopted. Especially those who were much older than me. Did they do anything to you? Well, we were all children at that time. What could we do to me? It doesn't matter. If you want to talk, tell me. There was a long silence. A long, long time. That day, the couple didn't really decide which child to adopt. They went back and planned to make a decision the next day. In the evening, after dinner, everyone watched TV with the teachers in the orphanage as usual. The children who didn't want to watch and wanted to rest would go back to rest first. At that time, I liked the content on TV very much, so I stayed until the end with the teacher. But when I went back, I found that I was locked out. I knocked on the door, but no one responded. I shouted for them, but no one came to open the door for me. I went to find the teacher, and they finally opened the door. But after the teacher left, I found that my bed, mattress, and quilt were all soaked with water. I wanted to find the teacher at the orphanage again, but they had locked the door. The voice stopped abruptly. He couldn't help but break off the branch at hand. Chapter 357 Jialing Pass. In the end, I could only spend the night on a wet bed. The next day, of course, I had a fever, and I didn't see the couple again. Later, the teacher at the orphanage asked why my bed was wet. They said I did it myself. The teacher confirmed with me, and I looked at the children standing behind the teacher and nodded. Then everyone in the orphanage thought that I did it on purpose because I didn't want to be adopted. Even the director had a personal talk with me once, telling me that it is not easy for children like us to be adopted, and that we must cherish the love given by every kind person who is willing to walk into the orphanage. I know that was telling me that I have no right to choose, only a fate that is chosen. Why don't you expose them? I don't know why I just endured it, and I don't know why I became the one who did something wrong. I thought, many times when those children were smiling and accepting the praise from the orphanage teachers, I wanted to come out and say loudly what they had done, but I still couldn't do it. Later, you chose to leave the orphanage, right? Almost. Although it's not easy for me to support myself and go to school, I also found that not everyone is like those kids. Like my classmates in high school, haha, they are all talented and speak well. I like them very much. Really? Do you have any interesting stories? Why don't you tell Mom about them? Okay, I remember it was a month after the start of my freshman year in high school. At that time, the classmates were basically familiar with each other. It was no longer like the beginning of the school year when everyone would feel a little awkward when introducing themselves to each other. When handing out textbooks, we would say thank you when our deskmate handed them to us. That time, we took advantage of the empty afternoon break and secretly put a movie on the computer in the classroom. It seemed to be a horror movie, and the whole class gathered together to watch it. Although there were many people, the classroom was still a little dim after the bed curtains were drawn, so the atmosphere was very appropriate, and many people screamed together, including you. Yes, that was my first time watching a movie, and also my first time watching a horror movie. I was totally scared. Later, people around me said that they were not scared by the plot of the movie at that time, but they were all scared by my screaming, ho ha ho ha. Later, the horror movie didn't finish because the head teacher came and scolded us. I still remember the expression and demeanor when he said that, "What's the matter with you guys? It's only been a short time since the start of school and you're already at peace? What's going on? The ground started to float up as soon as you stepped on it, right? Peace? Who said it? Peace? You don't admit it, right? Okay, don't let me. I'll catch you next time." Oh, you have to know, you are no longer elementary school and junior high school kids, you are already high school students. In 3 years, you will take the college entrance examination. Why, one or two of you don't take it seriously? Let me tell you, these 3 years have passed very quickly. Oh, come on, let me calculate for you, excluding your winter and summer vacations, various holidays, and weekends, how many days are left? You can calculate it yourself. You still have the mind to watch a movie here? Hey, you have the free time to watch a movie. Why don't you use this time to read more books? If you really can't find anything to do, take out the math problems and do a few more problems. Also, the happiest time for me was when I took the first place in our class in the final exam of the first semester of high school. It felt like I won the championship of the elite competition of the All-Continent High-Level Spirit Master Academy, but the only regret was that the school held a parent-teacher meeting afterwards. Of course, I was also praised by the head teacher in front of all the parents and classmates who came that day. In short, I was very happy. Hearing this, he couldn't help laughing. This silly child, the new side of the Haotian sect Tang San and Xiao Wu are here at the moment. Because Lu Gao has successfully made the top 3 hidden weapons of the Tang sect Buddha's Wrath Tang Lian, Peacock Feather, and torrential pear blossom needle. It's just that Liu Gao himself chose to throw the furnace to make these hidden weapons, so as to stimulate the sharpness of those rare metals. Now, the Wuhan Empire and the Xiandao Empire will soon officially go to war, but with these top hidden weapons, Tang San has a greater grasp of this battle. But now, he has encountered a new problem. Because the people of the Haoshan sect are unwilling to take action. Of course, after Tang San asked, he also found that the Haoshan sect was not really unwilling to take action, but because they did not receive accurate orders, they did not dare to act rashly. He asked his uncle Tang Xiao, but Tang Xiao just smiled and answered him, "Don't worry, it will be solved soon." Tang San was very puzzled. "Aren't you the leader of the Haoshan sect? Can't you directly command the entire Haoshan sect?" Tang Xiao patted his shoulder and said, "In our Haoshan sect, sometimes, even if you are already the leader of a sect, you can't decide the wishes of the entire sect by yourself." Tang San felt that he had only a vague understanding, but he could only nod slightly. Finally, Tang San and Xiao Wu took all the hidden weapons they had made and rushed to the border between the Xiandao Empire and the Wuhan Empire. The rest of their Shrek 7 devils were also there. Jialing Pass. The Wuhan Empire's Soul Master Army. The Xiandao Empire's army. And the Tang Clan army, which was composed of Tang sect disciples equipped with Tang sect hidden weapons. The Shrek 7 devils, all of whom were titled Douluo. This battle was destined to be recorded in the annals of history. In particular, a small Buddha's Wrath Tang Lotus blew hundreds of soul saints owned by the Wuhan Hall into ashes. That kind of power made the powerful Wuhan Empire people extremely afraid. But the morale of the Xiandao Empire was high. Soon, Bibidong took action personally. Tang San stepped forward to fight. Tang San's soul power level was far inferior to Bibidong's. But he was able to gain a slight advantage in the battle with Bibidong, and almost gave Bibidong a fatal blow in the end. However, the fatal blow was finally blocked by the priest. So, Tang San failed. Because the 6 titled Douluo priests in the Douluo Hall, that is, the Elder Hall of the Spirit Hall, all of whom had cultivation bases above level 96, rushed over at this time. 3 of the 6 priests rushed directly towards Tang San. The other 3 rushed towards the gate of Jialing Pass. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358. However, when the 3 titled Douluo were about to reach Tang San and attack him, a bright blue-black light fell from the sky like a meteor, and finally exploded between Tang San and the 3 priests. The bright, dazzling light suddenly bloomed over the entire Jialing Pass. The 3 priests could not help but explode out in the light. Of course, Bibidong, who was not far from them, had to fly back under the effect of the blue light. Gradually, the blue light that was so bright that Tang San could not open his eyes also dissipated and dimmed. A figure dressed in blue and black clothes floated in the air, holding a small, illusory blue gold grass on his left hand. The most eye-catching thing was the spirit rings around him. Black, 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 blue, red, red, red. A total of 9 spirit rings, 400,000-year spirit rings, and a strange 5th spirit ring that appeared blue and gold, and the lowest spirit rings were 10,000-year level. Who is he? At this moment, whether it was the soldiers on the ground, the spirit masters on the city gate, or the titled Douluo in the sky, they all had this question in their hearts. Can such a spirit ring ratio really appear on a human? Just when the other titled Douluo were still a little dazed, that person spoke up at this time. "Hey, do you think it's fun to bully the weak with the strong? Not only are there 3 people besieging us at the beginning, but they are also 3 titled Douluo above level 96. Don't you feel ashamed?" The 3 titled Douluo worshippers silently glanced at Tang San behind him. Holding the artifact Sega trident in his hand, his spirit ring configuration, black, 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 red, black, red, red. And he looks only about 24 or 25. Although, judging by age, they are indeed bullying the weak with the strong, and judging by the number of people, they are indeed bullying the few with the many. However, facing such a young titled Douluo with such a high-level spirit ring configuration, they themselves are not very sure. Now here comes a guy like you who looks younger, and is also a titled Douluo, and has a more advanced spirit ring configuration than the one behind you. Can they say that they really want to run away now? But they can't, because the order they received was to come to the aid of the Pope. And the one who gave the order was the new master of their elder hall. He was a person who was more worthy of their respect and fear than Douluo. No, maybe she can no longer be called a human now. She should be called a god. While the three priests were silent, Tang San looked at the back of the man in front of him and said, Liu. The man turned around, revealing a face that even the heaven and earth would be eclipsed, and then smiled and said, Brother, did you miss me? Tang San glanced at him, smiled slightly, and said, Let's talk about other things later. The most urgent task is to get rid of these high-end forces of the Spirit Hall first. I can leave the above few to you. You go to hold the three-titled Douluo on the city gate. I'm afraid that Die Boss and the others can't hold on for too long. Tang Liu, don't worry, I have already invited two big guys to help, plus the other people in our Shrek monster group. The three-titled Douluo are nothing at all. Tang San nodded and said, Then we will do it together. Tang Liu also smiled and nodded. Okay. The blue gold fifth soul ring on his body lit up. And then a virtual spear was held in his right hand. The fifth soul skill, the blue silver spirit emperor spear. This spear has an attack power that is always one level higher than the enemy's defense hit by the spear tip, which means it can definitely break the defense. Tang Liu floated to Tang San's side, stood side by side with him, and looked at the three-titled Douluo on the opposite side. The leading titled Douluo priest said to Bibidong, Your Majesty, you go first, we will hold these two people back. Bibidong glanced at Tang Liu on the opposite side, and then left quickly. Tang San secretly felt it was a pity. If he could almost kill Bibidong in one fell swoop, then the victory of this war would have been almost theirs, but Bibidong finally escaped. However, if all these titled Douluo priests of the Spirit Hall could be left here, it would be a great weakening of the Spirit Hall's strength. After confirming that Bibidong had gone far away, the three titled Douluo priests immediately rushed towards Tang San and Tang Liu. The spirit rings of these three titled Douluo are all in an excellent configuration of 2 yellow, 2 purple and 5 black. At the same time, their cultivation is also above level 96, which means that the three of them are absolutely overwhelming for ordinary titled Douluo below level 95. It's just a pity that they are facing Tang San and Tang Liu. Let alone Tang Liu, he has already reached level 96, and it is no pressure for him to single-handedly kill the three of them. Although Tang San is only level 93, he has the aura of a protagonist, a set of divine clothes, and various divine skills. It is absolutely no problem for him to kill two people alone. Therefore, how can they defeat Tang San and Tang Liu with just these three titled Douluo? Tang Liu didn't even use his spirit skills. He just relied on his body skills and the absolute defense-breaking characteristics of the blue-silver spirit emperor spear to easily deal with several titled Douluo. And Tang San took advantage of the time when Tang Liu held the three titled Douluo back and attacked them. In the end, the three titled Douluo didn't even last 10 minutes before they all fell under Tang San's Sea God Trident. After dealing with them, Tang San and Tang Liu looked towards the gate of Jialing Pass below. At this time, the battle below was still going on, but they still had the upper hand and were suppressing the three titled Douluo worshippers. It seemed that it would not take long for the battle there to be decided. And Tang San also saw the two big guys Tang Liu mentioned. Both of them were people he was very familiar with. Zia Ocean Douluo, Tang Zio. Hey Ocean Douluo, Tang Hao. Tang San was slightly surprised. Why did you invite Uncle here, Tang Liu? You know, just act like a spoiled child or something. Then, Tang San, okay, I understand. After that, Tang San retracted his gaze from the gate, looked at Tang Liu, and said, since you called your father here, you must have gone back to see the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, right? Tang Liu's eyes were still on the gate, and he nodded gently. Then you also know about Mom's situation. Tang Liu nodded again. Do you have a solution? Tang Liu shook his head slightly this time. Chapter 359 Suspicion. No, or unwilling, the sudden words made Tang Liu look back. What? Tang San smiled lightly, shook his head and said, nothing. Tang Liu looked into his eyes. Are you doubting me? Tang San looked at him calmly. I don't know either. The atmosphere suddenly fell into a freezing point. The spirit rings surrounding Tang Liu disappeared in an instant. At the same time, the 9 spirit rings on Tang San's body quietly became much brighter than before. For a long time, they did not speak, but just stood in the sky, silently confronting each other. Tang San's right hand holding the sea cucumber trident was extremely strong, causing the veins on the back of his hand to bulge. Tang Liu's eyes moved away from Tang San's eyes, and fell on Tang San's right hand holding the sea cucumber trident. After leaving a light glance there, he looked back again. He smiled, and his tone was still as innocent and ignorant as before. "What are you nervous about?" He tilted his head slightly and said with a smile, "Brother." In an instant, Tang San's right hand relaxed. Then, his spirit was taken back. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Nothing." Tang Liu still smiled and said, "But I think, brother, you still have something that I don't know." Tang San asked him back, "Aren't you the same?" Tang Liu, "Really? What can I have?" He then tilted his head and looked up into the sky. "She does have something." Tang San followed his gaze and his expression instantly became solemn. Tang Liu suddenly said, "You should go and replenish your spirit rings as soon as possible, brother. You are still far from defeating a first-level god now. If you want to fight her, you should inherit the position of sea god as soon as possible." Tang San looked at Tang Liu's profile, which seemed to have suddenly become a little distant. He was a little absent-minded for a while, and always felt that he seemed to have lost something. But in a moment of distraction, Tang Liu, who was still looking at the sky, turned into a face facing him in his sight. He smiled and said, "What are you waiting for, brother? Leave this to me, don't worry about me, I can handle it." It was still the Tang Liu he was familiar with. The alienation just now seemed to be just his illusion. But Tang San could only nod and said helplessly, "Be careful, Tang Liu, don't worry, go quickly. When you inherit the position of sea god, maybe you can make mom fully recover." Tang San was stunned for a moment, then clenched his fists, smiled and nodded, and said, "Well, you are right." This time it was Tang Liu's turn to be stunned. A trace of doubt flashed in his eyes, but in the end he said nothing, watching Tang San's figure gradually leave. After that, his eyes looked up at the sky again. Who is it? Sea god? Azura god? Or good and evil? However, he couldn't think of the answer for the time being, and those few would not take the initiative to appear in front of him to tell him the correct answer directly. So he didn't want to entangle these for the time being. Now, he just wanted to see how strong the god-level Jinriksu was. With a swish, the wings of the Ice and Fire Dragon King appeared behind Tang Liu. Then the wings flapped violently, and the next moment, Tang Liu's figure rose rapidly and flew over a height of 10,000 meters. It was at this altitude that he saw the figure that was emitting golden light and looked like a small sun from a distance. The new angel god, Jinriksu. He saw Jinriksu, so Jinriksu, who was now a god, naturally saw him. Jinriksu, who was still far away from him, came to Tang Liu in the next moment after a few flashes. There were 7 circles of golden halos behind her head, golden wings behind her, and a white long dress that perfectly outlined her body lines and added a holy atmosphere to her. In addition, she was surrounded by 6 black and 3 red 9-circle soul rings, but before that, her soul rings were still the configuration of a normal soul master. Jinriksu looked at Tang Liu in front of her, and always felt that the mysterious, noble, and illusory temperament of the other party had become stronger and stronger. She then said, "So, now, the time has come, right?" She was obviously referring to the words that Tang Liu asked the Emperor of Xingluo to convey to her on his behalf at the Xingluo Palace. Tang Liu had a faint smile on his lips, nodded, and said, "It's almost time." Jinriksu was a little surprised. "Isn't it now? Then why did you appear in front of me?" Tang Liu smiled helplessly and said, "It's just because, except for me, no one can hold you back without paying any price." Jinriksu said angrily, "I have become the god of angels now. Do you think you can easily defeat me?" Jinriksu, who has become a deity, can now be said to be pulling the secrets of heaven with every move she makes, so when she showed a little anger, dark clouds quickly gathered in the sky around her. Tang Liu remained calm and said calmly, "As long as you are not a god king, you cannot defeat me." His eyes lit up with a faint blue light, and the next moment, the dark clouds around him quickly disappeared, revealing a clear sky again. Jinriksu's expression changed slightly, and her tone was a little unbelievable, and she said, "Have you also achieved a god level?" Tang Liu shook his head gently. "No, Jinriksu, that's impossible. If you haven't broken through the god level, how can you interfere with the celestial phenomena at will?" Tang Liu chuckled and said, "For me, this is not a particularly difficult thing." Tang Liu, whose mental power has now reached the tangible and material realm, has long been more adept at controlling molecules and even atomic-level substances through the Hyaolin seal. Isn't it simple to use this to control the weather? Tang Liu, moreover, if I have successfully reached the god level, then no one in this world can be my opponent. Jin Ringsu's face changed slightly. Does it also include the God King? Tang Liu nodded, including the God King. Then he asked doubtfully, don't you have any doubts at all? Jin Ringsu said as if mocking herself, doubt? I have doubted you many times, but every time, you slapped the facts hard in my face. At this point, Jin Ringsu suddenly felt a little aggrieved. After all, she is also a girl, can't she give her a little way out? Tang Liu said, now that you have become a god, don't you want to challenge again? What if you beat me this time, then you will slap the facts hard in my face, won't you? Chapter 368. Jin Ringsu felt a little speechless. Until now, did he still think that she was challenging him? Was it really because she was not direct enough? However, she felt a little itchy when she thought about it and slapped the truth in his face. She actually wanted to try this once. However, she didn't really want to fight him. Instead, she wanted to have a good chat. So she said, I haven't seen you for so many years. Where have you been on a mission? Tang Liu looked at her puzzledly. Don't you want to fight with me? Jin Ringsu lifted the ends of her hair and said softly, compared to a life and death duel, I would rather have a good chat with you. Tang Liu looked at Jin Ringsu even more suspiciously. Can becoming a god change a person's temperament? What's wrong with you? This is not like you before. Jin Ringsu smiled softly and said, no, maybe, I just became more open-minded all of a sudden. Tang Liu, then do you still want to unify the Douluo continent? Since you've let it go, why don't you withdraw your troops? This will solve the problem from the root, and we really don't have to fight. What do you think? Jin Ringsu, this guy really sees through her. He clearly knows that she will never withdraw her troops. Jin Ringsu was patient and kept smiling, saying, can you let me try some milk tea and cake? Tang Liu was persistent, will you withdraw after eating? Dark clouds surrounded Jin Ringsu again. She gritted her teeth, but still tried to maintain a smile and said, can you stop talking nonsense and serve me milk tea and cake? Tang Liu curled his lips and said, okay, I'll treat you. Jin Ringsu, if I can buy it myself, do I need you to treat me? Tang Liu waved his hand, and the dark clouds around him turned into white clouds, gathering between the two of them, forming the shape of a table and chairs. After that, Tang Liu's left and right eyes lit up at the same time. First, the psychedelic gaze of the left eye of the demon eye created a cup of illusory milk tea and an illusory cake on the table formed by the clouds. Then, the light of truth from the right pupil of the evil eye turned the milk tea and the cake from illusory to real. Jin Ringsu sat on the chair formed by the clouds, watching the strange patterns around Tang Liu's left and right eyes slowly dissipate, and then sighed, if I'm not mistaken, those are two external soul bones, right? Then, she glanced at the pair of wings behind Tang Liu, and then said, and your pair of wings are also external soul bones. Tang Liu retracted the wings of the Ice and Fire Dragon King behind him, sat opposite Jin Ringsu, and said, yes, they are all external soul bones. Jin Ringsu said, I really don't know how you can have such good luck. You got 3 external soul bones at once. This is a luck that others can't get in several lifetimes. Tang Liu didn't correct her that he actually had 4 external soul bones, but just said them softly, without denying, but also without confirming. Jin Ringsu didn't talk anymore, and concentrated on enjoying the milk tea and cake in front of her. Last time, she enjoyed these 2 delicacies in the illusion created by Tang Liu. Although the taste was deeply engraved in her mind because of the illusion, she didn't really drink milk tea and eat cake. But now it's different. She really tasted the milk tea and cake, and she felt that the taste was even better than her memory. The main thing is that the taste of milk tea and cake exploded on the taste buds, which was a kind of satisfaction she had never experienced before. Jin Ringsu couldn't help but say, if I can always eat these, I'm willing to do anything. Of course, she just said it casually, and she was talking to herself, and her voice was very low. But Tang Liu happened to hear it. He said, really? Jin Ringsu immediately bit the milk tea straw vigilantly, and said vaguely, don't think about it, I will never withdraw my troops. Tang Liu was also speechless, and he said, I didn't ask you to withdraw your troops. I just asked you if what you said really counts. Jin Ringsu thought about it, and then said, in addition to the withdrawal of troops and what I think is an excessive request, if you can really let me drink milk tea and eat cake every day, I can promise you one thing. Do you mean what you say? The words of the gods, of course they count, okay, as long as you don't regret it. I promise to let you eat something as delicious as these every day. Jin Ringsu's eyes lit up. Are there other things as delicious as milk tea and cakes? Tang Liu thought about the things that his classmates in that world took him to eat, and then nodded firmly. Of course, there are a lot. Okay, the deal is done. Tell me, what do you want me to do for you? Tang Liu, no hurry, I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you when I think of it, okay, but you still have to give me milk tea, cake, and other delicious food every day. Tang Liu looked at her with disdain. Why do I feel like you have never eaten anything? Jin Ringsu didn't care. Find milk tea and cake like this on Douluo continent and show it to me. Tang Liu stood up and said, okay, I still have things to finish. Don't go downstairs to cause trouble for them while I'm not around, and it's best not to show up. Jin Ringsu said with a smile, is this your request? Tang Liu glared at her. Of course not. Jin Ringsu leaned back in the cloud chair, drinking milk tea leisurely, and said, okay, even if I'm in a good mood, I'll give you another request for free. By the way, leave me more milk tea and cake before you leave. It won't take long to eat this much. If I finish it, I'm not sure if I will run downstairs to take a look because I'm bored. Tang Liu looked at her speechlessly. Eat so much, be careful to gain 10 pounds. Jin Ringsu smiled and said, it's okay. I've become a god. I won't get fat no matter how much I eat. Tang Liu snorted and used the psychedelic gaze and the light of truth again to conjure up more milk tea and cakes, of course, all with different flavors. However, he didn't eat much in his previous life. Although he knew the names of many kinds of cakes and milk tea, he had never really seen what they looked like, nor tasted their taste, so he couldn't make them. At this time, Jin Ringsu looked at a large plate among a pile of cakes and milk tea, pointing to the red, green, yellow and other colors, and the various shapes, which looked like fruits, and asked, what are those? Tang Liu replied, fruits are much healthier than the milk tea and cakes you eat. Jin Ringsu looked at the fruits with dew on the skin curiously, and said, if they don't taste good, I'll go down and take a look. Don't worry, they must be delicious. As soon as the voice fell, Tang Liu left. Jin Ringsu also reached into the fruit plate. But at this moment, Tang Liu suddenly flashed back and scared her. Tang Liu picked up the yellow, curved fruit in the fruit plate and said, you have to peel this banana before eating it, don't forget. Also, don't eat the core of these fruits. Chapter 361 Dark Demon Evil Tiger. After saying that, Tang Liu peeled a banana in his hand and handed it to Jin Ringsu. You can only eat the white flesh inside. Jin Ringsu took it and said with a smile, you care about me so much and come back to teach me how to eat these things called fruits. Tang Liu rolled his eyes and said, no, I'm just afraid that you will make trouble after eating those strange tasting peels. After saying that, he looked at the other fruits in the fruit plate, but he still felt uneasy. So he took out a jade fox from somewhere, put it on the cloud table, and said to Jin Ringsu, this is little funny, before you eat each fruit, you can ask it how to eat it. Jin Ringsu looked at the trembling little funny, and said, it's actually a 100,000-year-old jade fox? Where did you kidnap it from? Tang Liu said, what do you care about me? Anyway, I'm really leaving now. Jin Ringsu nodded, go away quickly, don't get in my way here. A blue light flashed, and Tang Liu's figure disappeared. Jin Ringsu also took a bite of the banana in her hand. The taste is a bit strange but it tastes good, quite sweet. Xingdao Great Forest. Tang San, who felt that a god was successfully born, finally felt some anxiety. Therefore, after briefly explaining a few words to his companions in Jialing Pass, he immediately came to the Xingdao Great Forest without stopping, ready to make up for the remaining spirit rings of his clear sky hammer. As soon as he entered the forest, he found an extremely rare and extremely evil spirit beast. The Dark Demon Evil God Tiger. Moreover, the Dark Demon Evil God Tiger's battlefield talent spirit skill of rejuvenation also made Tang San suffer a loss, but in the end he still successfully defeated the Dark Demon Evil God Tiger and obtained the spirit ring of this spirit beast. However, in the end, part of the energy of the Dark Demon Evil God Tiger still broke through the space and escaped. Because it was too sudden, Tang San did not have time to react, so he could only secretly say it was a pity, otherwise he would probably be able to get another spirit bone. But now is not the time to think about these things. Tang San immediately absorbed the soul ring of the Dark Demon Evil God Tiger and continued to fly towards the interior of the starred-out Great Forest. However, not long after he left, another figure quietly emerged from the shadows, and in his hand, he was holding the escaped Dark Demon Evil God Tiger energy. This person was Tang Liu. What he told Jinringsu to complete was this matter. In the novel, the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger finally went to the world of Shiansu transformation and was absorbed by Zhou Weiqing, the future god of destruction. The energy of the dark demon evil god tiger is also extraordinary. In addition to the evil and dark energy it already possesses, it also has a certain amount of lightning, space, and time. Naturally, Tang Liu can't miss such a good thing. However, the existence of the god of destruction Zhou Weiqing is also very important. Therefore, Tang Liu used the Hyaolin seal to separate a small part of the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger, and then put that little bit of energy into the space crack. In order to prevent the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger from being gradually consumed in the process of passing through the space crack, he used part of his own power to protect that energy. And also to ensure that the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger could accurately find Zhou Weiqing. In this way, he not only obtained the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger, but also did not delay the birth of Zhou Weiqing, the god of destruction. Isn't it the best of both worlds? Tang Liu took a look at the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger in his hand, nourished it with his soul power, and then whispered, "Don't worry, I will let you live. In this way, you will be more useful." Right, then, he used Hyaolin to teleport away from here. After all, after this, there will be no more good things on the Douluo continent. And Tang San is about to inherit the position of the sea god. Now Tang San should be in the center of the starred out great forest, fighting with the 3 Kyanjin ant kings. Since Jinringsu is now eating and drinking in the sky, she will not come to trouble Tang San. In this case, when Tang San successfully absorbs the spirit ring of the 1,000-tire ant emperor, he should return to the sea god island, kill the deep sea demon whale king, who only has the strength of 1,000,000 years, and start the final inheritance of the gods. After that, this era will almost end. Xingluo Empire, Xingluo City. About 50 miles northwest of Xingluo City, a huge, luxurious, palace-like building was completed a few years ago. Above the main entrance of this palace, there is a plaque written by the Emperor of Xingluo himself. There are only 3 big characters on it: National Master's Mansion. However, no one has really lived in this National Master's Mansion until now, but there are special people who come to do daily cleaning every day. Today, the people who came to clean the National Master's Mansion encountered a strange thing. Because they received an order temporarily to transport 5 coffins into the National Master's Mansion and place these 5 coffins in the central room of this National Master's Mansion. Everyone who received this order felt it was very strange, because this National Master's Mansion had been completed for several years, but their National Master had never had time to live here. And now they are carrying 5 coffins inside, and placing them in the most important central room. Isn't that too unlucky and too unlucky? However, they are just servants, and they dare not question it. Anyway, they just do what the superiors ask. So, the 5 coffins were carried into the National Master's Mansion and placed in the central room. It was originally a place for meeting guests, but now there are 5 coffins lined up in a row. It is really weird no matter how you look at it. The servants shuddered, locked the door immediately, and left here. A few days later. The war at Jialing Pass is still not over. After all, this place is extremely important to the Spirit Hall. Behind this Jialing Pass is a vast plain, which is easy to attack but difficult to defend. Therefore, if the Spirit Hall loses control of Jialing Pass, then the army of the Xiandao Empire can directly attack the Spirit City. In addition, at this time, to the south of the Spirit Empire, there is also the army of the Xingluo Empire, which is eyeing it covetously. Once Jialing Pass is lost, the Xiandao Empire and the Xingluo Empire will make the Spirit Hall face the situation of being attacked from all sides. By then, the Spirit Empire will no longer exist. Naturally, the Spirit Hall is almost desperate to protect Jialing Pass. However, no matter how powerful the Soul Master is, he cannot compare with the millions of elite troops. After all, Soul Masters are still a minority, and the soul power in the Soul Master's body is also limited, which cannot withstand the consumption of a large number of troops. I will post today's chapter first. I think we may be able to complete all the plots of the first chapter today, so that the explosive update will end. Chapter 362, The First Battle of Title. When the enemy was about to run out of steam, the Spirit Hall would start to fight back desperately. At this time, the number of casualties of the Xiandao army began to rise rapidly. So the Xiandao army had to retreat temporarily. Seeing this, The spirit masters of the spirit hall secretly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that they could finally have some breathing time. However, they were wrong. Because they suddenly found that among the retreating Xiandao army, there were 5 figures with 9 circles of spirit rings around their bodies, and they were quickly approaching the gate of Jialing Pass where they were. All the spirit masters were shocked. Now, they only had 4 title Douluo here, and the opponent came with 5 title Douluo. How should they fight? But no matter how slim the hope was, they had to bite the bullet. Above Jialing Pass, the 4 title Douluo of the Spirit Hall also quickly flew up and prepared to fight. However, when they saw the spirit ring configuration of the 5 title Douluo on the opposite side, they were completely dumbfounded. Because the 5 title Douluo on the opposite side all have top-level soul ring ratios starting with 200,000 year soul rings. The one floating in the front is a girl with 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black and 3 red soul rings, holding a dead branch in her hand, who looks to be only 24 or 25 years old. On her left-hand side, there is a man with a stronger soul ring ratio, who seems to be about the same age as the girl next to him. He holds a cold long sword in his hand. Behind these 2 people, there is a woman holding a white flower in both hands, and she is only 100,000 year soul ring less than the woman in front of her. Behind this woman, there is a man and a woman holding hands, and the 2 are surrounded by extremely rich light and dark elements. And their soul ring ratio is the same as the woman in front of them. In short, the 2 sides finally approached. The title Douluo on the side of the Spirit Hall, the leader is a priest of the Elder Hall who survived by chance. It can also be said that Tang Xiao and Tang Hao deliberately let him go that day. After all, Tang Xiao's soul power was already as high as level 97, and Tang Hao, who possessed the immortal Jade Bone and was resurrected from the dead, had long been pushed to the peak that human soul masters could reach, level 99. He looked at the 5 title Douluo opposite him with a serious expression, and said, I don't remember when the Heaven Dao Empire had so many title Douluo. Mu Jing, who was floating in the front, responded to him calmly, we are not affiliated with a Heaven Dao Empire. Of course, we are not affiliated with any country. The worshipper title Douluo was a little puzzled. Then why do you want to help the Heaven Dao Empire to fight against us? This time, it was Lu Qifeng next to Mu Jing who answered him. Lu Qifeng, no, we are not helping the Xiandao Empire to fight against you. We are just here to kill you. The priest snorted coldly and said, you are so arrogant at such a young age. Let me tell you that even if you have cultivated to the level of a title Douluo, there are still people who are better than you and there are still heavens beyond you. Yi Lingling suddenly said at this time, you are right, but the people who are better than you and the heavens beyond you are us. The priest's eyes widened instantly and shouted angrily. You are looking for death? As soon as he finished speaking, he and the other 3 title Douluos behind him rushed towards Mu Jing and the others. However, Mu Jing only flew back a short distance and stood side by side with Yi Lingling. Lu Qifeng, who was beside her, came to the front at this time, waved his wrist, and danced a dazzling sword flower. The next moment, the killing god domain was activated. The cold, sharp, and chilling murderous aura instantly filled the air. Under Lu Qifeng's control, most of the murderous aura gathered in front of him, forming a solid barrier that was invisible to the naked eye, blocking all the 4 title Douluo who rushed over. Then, Su Yu and Su Chen, who were at the end, also moved at this time. In between, the figures of the 2 disappeared instantly, turning into 2 shadows, one bright and one dark, which quickly bypassed a murderous barrier from the left and right sides and came to the side of the 4 title Douluo. At the same time, the 5th and 6th circles of 10,000 year soul rings on Mu Jing's body lit up together. The 5th soul skill, plums go in the morning light. The 6th soul skill, plum shadows are rustling. The 2 range soul skills that combine control and attack instantly acted on the 4 title Douluo. At the same time, the large amount of light and dark elements caused by the release of soul skills also made Su Yu and Su Chen's strength surge again. Su Yu and Su Chen immediately used their first 3 soul skills, with a clear target, the 3 ordinary title Douluo behind the worshipper. The worshipper could naturally see the intentions of the 2, and snorted coldly, wanting to use soul skills to stop Su Yu and Su Chen. However, at this time, Mu Jing's first soul skill, 3,000 plum rains falling, and the second soul skill, plum blossoms like flowing fire, both controlled soul skills acted on the worshipper at the same time. At the same time, Lu Qifeng also moved, and the murderous aura in the killing god domain changed again, turning into countless sharp swords, all pointing at the controlled worshipper. Therefore, the worshipper could only give up Su Yu and Su Chen and concentrate on dealing with Lu Qiufeng's attack. Su Yu and Su Chen's attack arrived, and their attack actually directly knocked the three-titled Douluo away. The two did not give up, and quickly held hands and chased after them. The worshipper finally broke free from Yu Jing's control and was trying his best to resist Lu Qiufeng's attack. After seeing this scene, he was somewhat unbelievable, because the attack of Su Yu and Su Chen just now was already at the level of title Douluo above level 96. Without any communication, Yi Lingling had already floated up and occupied the highest position in the sky. Here, she could take care of the battles on both sides at the same time, so that she could treat at any time. The nine-hearted begonia, which had already reached the 9th ring and had 200,000 year soul rings attached, had a healing ability that could almost be said to be able to bring the dead back to life. As long as the person being treated by her was not directly beaten to ashes, she could save him. The soul core in her body also made her not have to worry about the consumption of soul power at all, so she only needed to heal her teammates. Su Yu and Su Chen, whose martial soul fusion had already reached 100%, still had soul cores in their bodies. Although they were only level 93 now, their combat power was definitely beyond that of title Douluo at level 96. So they did not take three ordinary title Douluo seriously at all. As for the priest, with Yu Jing and Lu Qiufeng keeping an eye on him, he couldn't cause any big trouble. Chapter 363 The Future? Above the clouds, although she didn't see it with her own eyes, Jin Ringsu had already sensed everything below. Naturally, she also witnessed a battle in its entirety, so she also sighed sincerely that these 5 people were indeed powerful, and it was no wonder that Tang Liu chose them. However, if these 5 people still didn't give up after killing those title Douluo, then she would have to take action. However, after dealing with the 4 title Douluo, the 5 people left quickly, which also made Jin Ringsu secretly relieved. It seems that she can enjoy the delicacies in front of her for a while longer. She doesn't like those fruits very much. Although those fruits are very sweet, she has eaten better fruits on the Douluo continent. Milk tea and cake are still her first choice. Sea God Island. Finally, it's the last sea god's 9th test, inheriting the sea god's throne. After going through untold hardships, he finally killed the deep-sea demon whale king, and made it the 9th soul ring of his clear sky hammer, and also obtained the last missing torso bone. In this way, he has reached the limit of human soul master cultivation and has fully obtained the qualification to inherit the throne of the sea god. In order to start the last 9th test of the sea god Douluo who has been guiding them has also sacrificed himself. The inheritance of the throne of God began soon. His 7 soul bones, the external soul bone 8 spider lance, the wisdom skull of spiritual concentration, the right leg bone of the blue-silver emperor, the left leg bone of the evil killer whale, the left arm bone of the azure bull python, the right arm bone of the titan giant ape, and the trunk bone of the deep-sea demon whale king, after he has gone through the test of 7 emotions, turned into a sea god's divine clothing and merged with him again. And this also means that he has successfully completed the 9th test of the sea god and become the new sea god. He only felt a sudden darkness in front of his eyes. In a trance, he seemed to have traveled through an extremely long distance. When his vision was restored, he found himself in a world full of soft golden light. God realm. And in front of him, there were 2 people standing. One was dressed in azure, with a gentle and tolerant aura. The other person was completely different, with blood-red hair and a bloody aura. Tang San also recognized these 2 people, the previous sea god and the azure god. The former sea god smiled and said, "Congratulations, Tang San, you have successfully inherited my throne." God sure curled his lips and said, "I didn't expect that you didn't choose my throne in the end." Tang San bowed slightly, then said, "Thank you for your kindness, 2 seniors, but I have a question. I wonder if you 2 seniors can answer it for me." The former sea god and God sure looked at each other, then the former sea god said, "You ask." Tang San looked at them intently and said, "Why did you 2 seniors lie to me and say that my brother is an uncontrollable danger? Why did you incite me and cause me to doubt my biological brother?" The former sea god and God sure were silent for a long time. Finally, it was the former sea god who broke the deadlock. "Tang San, God sure and I did not lie to you. Everything we told you before was true." Tang San, really? Do you have evidence to prove it? God sure said, "You have become a god now, and you also have some of my power. Don't be surprised, I originally planned to pass on the godhood to you. As the law enforcer of the God realm, I have a certain ability to see the future, just like the two gods of goodness and evil. You can see for yourself whether what we said is false." Tang San was silent for a long time, and then said, "What should I do, God Shiro? Let me guide you." "Close your eyes." Tang San did as he was told. The darkness in front of him dissipated not long after. First, there was an insignificant little light spot, and then, the little light spot gradually enlarged. Finally, it became a huge fireball. But his sight did not stop there, but came to a place far away from the huge fireball. Another planet. And Tang San recognized this planet at a glance. It was the planet where Douluo continent was located. Then, a blue-black light gradually rose from the Douluo continent of that planet and came to not far from his perspective. The blue-black light turned into 10 people. The one in the lead was Tang Liu. So far, he had seen this scene countless times during the divine test. And this time, the scene continued. Tang Liu, the leader, turned around and looked at the 9 people behind him. His lips and teeth moved slightly, as if he was saying something to the 9 people. At this time, Tang San's perspective changed, and he came behind Tang Liu. And Tang San also saw the faces of several of the 9 people. There were 5 in total, and the remaining 4 had faces covered with a thick darkness. Although he couldn't see the faces clearly, Tang San could still tell that they were 3 women and 1 man based on the figures of the 4 people. Then, Tang Liu turned around, and he also saw the face of this Tang Liu up close. It seemed that it was no different from now. This Tang Liu stretched out his right hand, and then, black, white, purple, green, and red, a total of 5 rays of light slowly flew out from his palm, rotating on an axis perpendicular to his palm. Tang San's perspective changed again, and he returned to behind Tang Liu and the others. Then, he saw Tang Liu personally throwing the 5 rays of light to the Douluo star in front of him. The 5 rays of light turned into 5 meteors of different colors, flying into 5 different places in Douluo star. Not long after, Tang San saw that the Douluo star in front of him trembled violently. It was originally in a state of slow rotation, but it suddenly stopped. The sea surface instantly became turbulent, turning into an extremely turbulent tsunami, almost submerging the entire Douluo star. And this is not over yet, because the next moment, the entire Douluo star was exploded into countless huge fragments. Tang San's consciousness trembled violently. At this time, as if his heart had sensed something, Tang Liu turned around and looked in the direction where he was. On his face, Tang San saw the coldness and indifference he had never seen before. It was as if it was not him who destroyed a Douluo star with his own hands just now. Tang San's heart was somehow cold. He thought Tang Liu saw him, but then, his perspective changed again and came behind Tang Liu again. Therefore, he also saw where Tang Liu was looking. It was the depths of the universe. There, a huge crack appeared at some point. And in the crack, a mysterious light that Tang San could not imagine was revealed. And that light made Tang San feel his soul tremble. Chapter 364 Choice. The crack was like the 2 sides of a door, being pulled apart by a force he could not imagine. In the end, the crack truly became a door that emitted an extremely mysterious light. At this moment, Tang Liu was the first to fly towards the door. A ray of light shone through the door, covering Tang Liu's body. So in Tang San's eyes, all that was left of Tang Liu was a dark back. The scene ended here. Tang San opened his eyes again, and he looked at the Shura god, and found that the other party's expression was also a little pale at this time. Tang San swallowed hard, and said with a trembling voice, "What is that?" God Shura said in a deep voice, "That is a world outside our universe." The former sea god continued his words, "A world that is more advanced than my universe. That place, we only feel endless fear. Is my brother Xia Aliu from there?" God Shura suddenly said angrily, "He is not your brother." Tang San was a little dazed by God Shura's sudden anger, but, the former sea god said in a cold tone, "Tang San, you know, according to the original normal trajectory, you have no biological brothers and sisters." Tang San was stunned when he heard this. God Shura said, "But one day, the 5 of us God Kings suddenly discovered that our universe was cracked by a force that we could not even understand. And along with the crack, there appeared something from the outside. We didn't know what it was, so the 5 of us went to check it out together. But not only did we find nothing, but we were also seriously injured by the power contained in that foreign object. After returning to the God realm, we recovered from our injuries while observing where the foreign object went. After that, We discovered the existence of Tang Liu. We wanted to bring him back, but we were attacked by the same force again, and that force also warned us that we were absolutely not allowed to leave the God realm in person to do anything that would be detrimental to Tang Liu. We had no choice but to compromise and stay in the God realm to observe Tang Liu. As he gradually grew up, the energy in his body made us more and more frightened, and soon after, we saw that future. The 5 rays of light you just saw are the original energy of the 5 of us God Kings. And Tang Liu used the original energy of the 5 of us to completely destroy the entire Douluo star. Tang San said with difficulty, but why did he do this? Why did he destroy the entire Douluo star? The Azure God said, you also saw that after he destroyed the Douluo star, a door to his original world was opened in our universe. So, we guessed that he should want to return to his original world, and the key to open the passage between the 2 universes for him may be the original power of the 5 of us, and then destroy the Douluo star, the former sea god added. Perhaps, if he wants to go back, he doesn't need to destroy the Douluo star, nor does he need the original power of the 5 God Kings, and the reason why he did all this is just because the people in their world gave him such a task. A glimmer of light flashed in Tang San's eyes, as if he had grasped some hope, and said, could it be that he was also forced by the people in that world? The Azure God said with regret, don't you understand Tang San? Tang Liu doesn't belong to our universe at all. He comes from a world with a higher dimension than ours. And do you know how high-dimensional beings like them view us low-dimensional beings? To them, we are nothing but ants. Ants that can be easily crushed to death. Think carefully about everything we told you before. Don't you still believe that you have been deceived by his carefully woven lies? Although he is very strong now, he is still far from being strong enough to fight against a God King. As long as you use my divine power, you can completely wipe him out. At that time, Douluo star and our universe will be safe. Or do you want to watch Douluo star destroyed and wait for him to go back and lead more high-dimensional creatures to destroy our universe? Every word of what Shura God said was like a sharp sword piercing Tang San's heart. He lowered his head in pain and clenched his fists tightly. Before, every time he completed an assessment, he would see a lie that Tang Liu had told him. The cliff jumping, the cave and the old grandfather were all fake, the mutated jade fox was also fake, and just going to the spring of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire was also fake. Those words that he seemed to remind him unintentionally every time, every seemingly coincidental moment, were all fake. There were no foreseen dreams, no secrets that could not be told, and nothing was concealed. They were all fake. He just knew everything. He knew everything. He knew himself, the world, what would happen and when, and everything. He had been blinded by him all the time. But even emotions were just a lie to him? Tang San loosened his clenched fists. He lowered his head, not daring to look into the eyes of Shura God and the former sea god. I'm sorry, 2 seniors. He is my younger brother. Because of this, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. God Shura pointed at him, and was so angry that he couldn't speak, and could only keep saying one word, you. Tang San still lowered his head. I'm sorry, 2 seniors. I can't do it, and I disappoint you. You can deprive me of my position as sea god, but please let me help my mother recover first. The former sea god patted God Shura on the shoulder, sighed and said, Tang San, I'll tell you the truth. Your mother's condition cannot be solved even if you have become a god. Tang San suddenly raised his head, his eyes were already red, he stared at the former sea god, and asked in disbelief, what did you say? Didn't you tell me that as long as I successfully inherited the position of sea god, I could solve my mother's problem? The former sea god said in a deep voice, Tang San, don't worry. I did say that, but your mother is missing a part of her soul and original power. As long as this part of the power does not return, your mother will never be able to recover. Now, this part of your mother's power is in Tang Liu. If you want this power to return to your mother and make her recover as before, either Tang Liu is willing to return this part of the power to your mother, or you kill Tang Liu, so that the power loses its carrier and returns to your mother on its own. Quotation mark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, God War. When Tang San's consciousness left the God realm and returned to his body, the words of the former sea god and Azure god were still echoing in his mind. According to the original trajectory, you don't have any biological brothers and sisters at all. He has been deceiving you all the time. In order to make your mother recover completely, either Tang Liu is willing to take out that power on his own initiative, or Tang Liu will die. He can't take it out on his own initiative, because he will die. Even if you let him go with a soft heart, he will eventually return to his world, and Douluo Star will be completely destroyed by him. Even if you can bring your parents to the God realm, what about others? What about your teachers, your companions' families and others? Are you just going to let them die? Now that he is not strong enough to fight against a God King, you can kill him easily. You don't have to worry too much, because he doesn't belong to our world after all. Once you kill him, all his existence in this world will be wiped out, and your parents will no longer remember him. No one can remember him anymore. You make your own choice: kill him, or let him destroy our world. It seemed as if the former sea god and Azure god were still whispering to him. His companions had also gathered around at this time, looking at his not-so-good face. They were all somewhat puzzled and worried. Xiao Wu came over, took Tang San's hand, and said worriedly, "Brother, what's wrong?" Tang San opened his eyes. A trace of cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He held Xiao Wu's hands in reverse, forced a smile, and said, "I'm fine, don't worry about me." Then, he looked at the other companions of the Shrek Seven Devils and said, "Let's go. It's time to go back and settle accounts with the Spirit Hall, Jialing Pass." Although the title Douluo stationed here by the Spirit Hall have been dealt with, the Heaven Dao Empire still failed to successfully break through Jialing Pass. After all, this place is really too easy to defend and difficult to attack. In addition, the title Douluo cannot participate in the war casually without an opponent of the same level, so the Spirit Hall once again stalemates with the Heaven Dao Empire. However, this is only a temporary situation. There will always be a moment when the Spirit Hall will be completely lost. After that, it will be a comprehensive general attack on the Wuhan Empire. The Wuhan Empire will have no spare energy to resist and can only be annihilated by the two empires. The Xiandao Empire has finally waited for this moment. Because of the return of the Shrek Seven Devils and the Tang army led by Tang San. Moreover, their arrival also brought an extremely exciting news to the Xiandao Empire army. That is, the thousand-handed Shiro, thousand-handed Douluo, Xiandao Emperor Master, Tang Sect Master Tang San, among the Shrek Seven Devils, has successfully inherited the position of the Sea God. This means that there is a real God in their team. The morale of the Xiandao army quickly increased, and the Wuhan Hall's defenders at Jialing Pass were miserable. When they were about to lose, a sacred golden light that would eclipse the sun suddenly fell from the sky, dissipated in front of Jialing Pass, and turned into a figure that looked extremely holy. She had blonde hair, a white long skirt, and 6 golden wings behind her. Her face was solemn and filled with inviolable divine light. Behind her head, there were 7 circles of golden halos. The sun shone on her body, and the solemn holy sound also surrounded her and spread outward. The pressure emanating from her also made countless people present have the urge to worship her. And all of this clearly showed her identity. God slander. The morale of the Spirit Hall increased greatly. It was because of the breath of the sea god that the angel god, Jin Ringsu, descended from the sky. Jin Ringsu looked around at all the Xiandao soldiers below, and then said, "Sea god, come out. If you want to pass Jialing Pass, you must defeat me first." Her voice was not loud, but it could spread far out and clearly fell into everyone's ears. Then, in the Xiandao army, a deep blue light rushed into the sky and came to a position 50 meters in front of Jin Ringsu. Jin Ringsu looked closely and found that it was actually an acquaintance. Tang San. She looked at the 7 circles of blue light behind her head and the golden trident in her hand, and said in a surprised tone, "You are the one who inherited the sea god." Tang San smiled and said, "It is me." Jin Ringsu snorted coldly, "Since everyone has become a god, let's have a contest between gods. Either I kill you and lead the army of my Wuhan Empire to unify the continent, or you kill me and destroy my Wuhan Empire." Tang San's expression also became serious, and he said, "Please." Jin Ringsu waved her right hand lightly, and the angel sword was held in her hand. Then, golden light continued to surround her, and her body was gradually covered by golden armor. Tang San's expression also became solemn, and with a thought, his whole body was covered by the sea god's divine armor, and the 8 wings of the sea god transformed from the 8 spider lance on his back also fluttered slightly. After seeing the 8 wings behind Tang San, Jin Ringsu's expression also became slightly surprised. After all, According to her understanding, the sea god should be a wingless god system. Now that he has 8 wings, it may be that the 8 spider lance, his external soul bone, has transformed after he became a god. Jin Ringsu snorted coldly, and then took the lead to fly to a height of 10,000 meters. Tang San followed closely behind. After all, the two have now become gods, and the battle between gods, even if it is just a simple test, can burst out with destructive power for mortals. If the two fight directly in front of Jialing Pass, it won't take too long before Jialing Pass and everything within 1,000 meters of Jialing Pass will be destroyed by the aftermath of the battle between the two. They don't want to see such a situation, and the God Realm also strictly prohibits such behavior. Moreover, it stands to reason that after they become gods, they should go to the God Realm immediately and never interfere in the affairs of the human world again. However, this time the situation was special, because 3 new gods were born on Douluo star at the same time, and one of them was hostile to the other 2. Originally, the God Realm would mediate this situation, but this time, Shura God, one of the 5 great gods in the God Realm, took a fancy to the successor of the sea god, and the other 4 gods were willing to give Shura God this face. In addition, the God Realm itself might also want to punish the other 2 first-level gods, so the God Realm turned a blind eye to this matter and would quietly help Tang San in secret. Chapter 366 3 Gods Slander. Of course, there must be some reasons for Tang Liu. They themselves cannot personally solve Tang Liu, who is an uncertain factor in their eyes. Besides them, the only person in this world who is most likely to solve Tang Liu is Tang San. Therefore, the 5 God Kings can meet all of Tang San's requirements. Even if they sacrifice the 2 first-level gods in the God Realm, they will not hesitate. Besides, the sacrifice is only the heirs of the 2 gods, right? Even if the positions and godhoods of the Angel God and the Rakshasa God are shattered and disappeared because of the death of the 2 new gods, they still have the power of 2 first-level gods, but they do not have the fighting power of the gods, and there is no loss. 10,000 meters above the sky, the battle between the 2 gods is about to break out. This place is deep inland and far from the coastline, so in terms of the environment, it is not favorable for Tang San, who is the god of the sea, but the god of the angel has the advantage of the terrain, because the sunlight here is extremely bright. But even so, the god of the sea Tang San, facing the angel god Jin Ringsu, still has a slight advantage and suppresses Jin Ringsu. This may also be because Tang San has an external soul bone, which has one more part than Jin Ringsu's angel god suit. Therefore, after becoming a god, Tang San's increase is much greater than Jin Ringsu, and therefore stronger than Jin Ringsu. Not long after, Jin Ringsu was defeated step by step, exhausted from resisting Tang San's attack, and was caught by Tang San. The sea god trident pointed directly at Jin Ringsu's throat. Tang San looked at Jin Ringsu and said calmly, "You lose." Jin Ringsu's golden hair was a little messy, and it was wet with sweat. She said, "Do it, otherwise the Wuhan Empire will not withdraw." Tang San narrowed his eyes slightly, and a trace of cold light flashed in them. "I'm sorry." He exerted force with his arm and stabbed the sea god trident forward. As a real artifact, just like the angel holy sword owned by Jin Ringsu, it can really hurt a god. Once the sea god trident pierces Jin Ringsu's neck, Jin Ringsu will surely die. And at such a short distance, Jin Ringsu has absolutely no reaction time to dodge. It seems that Jin Ringsu is doomed. However, an evil aura suddenly appeared. It was a huge black sickle. It was this huge sickle that directly lifted the sea god trident, weighing 180,000 kilograms, and threw Jin Ringsu away. Tang San frowned, recalled the sea god trident, and quickly retreated dozens of meters, looking vigilantly at the dark purple figure that suddenly appeared. The dark purple figure had a green face and fangs, and was dressed in purple-black armor. She stared at Tang San and held a huge black sickle. Tang San carefully identified it for a long time before he saw that the purple figure was the current Wuhan Hall Pope, Bibi Dong. And now, she has also achieved the position of a god and become the new Rakshasa god. The situation instantly turned against Tang San. Because Jin Ringsu and Bibi Dong were both from the Spirit Hall, they would stand against him for the Spirit Hall. But with his power as a sea god alone, he would never be able to defeat 2 first-level gods at the same time. Could it be that he had to use the power of the Shura god? But Jin Ringsu looked at the Rakshasa god beside her. Although his face had changed greatly, she still recognized his identity at the first time. Her mother, Bibi Dong. Jin Ringsu's voice trembled a little, and she said aloud, "Why save me, Bibi Dong didn't even look at her, but said in a cold voice, "With 2 guts, the possibility of defeating him is relatively large. And, I can also better unify the Douluo continent." She still didn't change. Jin Ringsu couldn't tell what kind of emotion she was feeling, but she laughed at herself and said, "Yes, isn't unifying the entire Douluo continent our goal?" Her expression quickly turned cold. "Then come on, let's get rid of the sea god together." She picked up the angel's holy sword again, and rushed towards Tang San again with Bibi Dong. Tang San relied on his ever-changing spirit skills to barely take on a few moves, but in the end he was still powerless, and Bibi Dong found an opportunity to knock him down from the 10,000-meter high altitude. Tang San's sea god trident was also knocked out of his hand by the continuous attacks of the 2 guts, and he himself was falling rapidly. But Bibi Dong and Jin Ringsu's attacks were far from stopping, and Tang San could only rely on his spirit skills and the sea god's divine suit on his body to barely resist. But facing the simultaneous attacks of 2 first-level gods, these were in vain. He was completely at a disadvantage and couldn't fight back. Bibi Dong and Jin Ringsu chased Tang San and beat him to a height of only 100 meters above the ground. But when they wanted to continue, they found that they could no longer move. Because their bodies were tightly bound by a layer of extremely conspicuous blue-black light, so that they kept the previous action and stopped in mid-air. Tang San also stopped. Then, Tang San's figure was dragged by the blue-black light to a place far away from Bibi Dong and Jin Ringsu. Bibi Dong and Jin Ringsu followed Tang San all the way, and then found another figure floating in the air behind Tang San. Tang Liu. On his left hand, Tang Liu held his first martial soul, the Void Spirit Blue Silver Emperor, and he was continuously using his 6th soul skill, Void Spirit Healing, to heal Tang San's injuries. Of course, he did not forget to hit Tang San with a Hyaolin recovery to restore Tang San's condition to the peak. While treating Tang San, he untied Bibi Dong and Jin Ringsu, and said to them, "Although you two are ladies, isn't it a bit unfair to use more people to fight fewer people?" Jin Ringsu and Bibi Dong looked at him very warily. Even though they have become true gods now, they still have a deep fear of Tang Liu. Moreover, it seems that no one has really seen Tang Liu's full strength, so they don't know what his strength is now. In addition, Tang Liu has too many strange and bizarre abilities. For example, the ones that the two have seen Tang Liu use, some of which even Bibi Dong felt troubled at the time, and now she is even more afraid that she will be caught by Tang Liu accidentally. Just now, being restricted by Tang Liu without any warning is a very vivid example. Bibi Dong looked at Tang Liu and said, "Why, do you want to join our battle too?" Tang Liu thought for a moment, then said, "Why not?" But, he looked at Jin Ringsu and said, "You said you would agree to one of my requests. Then I ask you to leave immediately and never interfere in the affairs of the Spirit Hall again. Are you willing?" Chapter 367, The Battle Resumes. Jin Ringsu refused without hesitation. "Impossible, your request is completely against my will," Tang Liu said. "I knew it," and then he finished treating Tang San, saying, "Sorry, it seems I have to join this battle." He had observed when he came, but he did not feel any breath of Shura God in Xiao Wu's body, which means that Xiao Wu did not choose to enter the magic sword, or they did not see Shura God at all. This also means that Tang San cannot rely on the power of Shura God to defeat the 2 first-level gods, Rakshasa God and Angel God, at the same time, and it also means that Tang San will definitely die. Therefore, he must participate in this battle. However, he really did not expect that the final butterfly effect would be so big, almost completely deviating from the ending of Douluo that he was familiar with. Is it because you stopped Xiao Wu from sacrificing? But now is not the time to think about these things. He must first solve the existence of Bibi Dong and Jin Ringsu, the 2 gods, otherwise Tang San will always be in danger and it will also disrupt some of his plans. Tang Liu turned to look at Tang San who had recovered and asked him, "Can I join your fight?" Tang San felt that there was something behind Tang Liu's words, but he couldn't show it. He just said solemnly, "If you have the confidence to defeat a god, Tang Liu, wow, you are looking down on me. Bibi Dong is in your hands. I will fight Jin Ringsu." Considering that Jin Ringsu had already consumed most of her divine power, Tang Liu should be able to have the upper hand in a fight with her. Bibi Dong's background is unknown, and no one knows what tricks she has. In comparison, he has fought with her twice and has a certain understanding of her, so the possibility of being at a disadvantage is also smaller. So Tang San nodded, which was considered as agreement. However, after Tang San nodded, he was also stunned. But Tang Liu didn't notice it either. He looked at Jin Ringsu and said, "Now, the time has come. We can have a good fight." Jin Ringsu said coldly, "This is unfair. I have consumed too much of my divine power. If you have the ability, you should restore all my divine power first." Tang Liu smiled and shook his head. "That's impossible." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised the blue-silver spirit emperor spear and rushed towards Jin Ringsu. At the same time, Tang San also found Bibi Dong with a recalled sea god trident. This battle between the gods was triggered again. Tang Liu came to Jin Ringsu in the blink of an eye, raised his hand and smashed a blue-silver spirit emperor spear in his hand towards Jin Ringsu. Jin Ringsu subconsciously raised her angel holy sword, trying to block Tang Liu's blue-silver spirit emperor spear. However, what shocked Jin Ringsu was that Tang Liu's blue-silver spirit emperor spear actually went straight through her angel holy sword and continued to smash at her. Fortunately, she had become a deity and had the ability to react quickly. The 6 golden wings behind her flapped, and she retreated rapidly to the back and below, barely avoiding the blue-silver spiritual emperor spear that Tang Liu threw at her. Seeing this, Tang Liu threw the blue-silver spiritual emperor spear in his hand directly at Jin Ringsu, and then he followed closely behind the blue-silver spiritual emperor spear, condensing a sharp Haolan force field on his hands and flying towards Jin Ringsu. Jin Ringsu, who was retreating rapidly, naturally saw this scene, so she immediately used her divine power to launch a divine skill, wanting to retreat while attacking Tang Liu. Tang Liu naturally discovered her intention, so he took the initiative and threw the Haolan force field in his hand, and also condensed more Haolan force fields behind him, controlling them all to fly towards Jin Ringsu. Jin Ringsu also launched an attack at this time. A large piece of golden light was swung out by her angel's holy sword, colliding with the Haolan force fields flying towards her, causing a violent explosion. But the number of Haolan force fields was too large, and some of them slipped through the explosion like fish that slipped through the net and continued to fly towards Jin Ringsu. As a last resort, Jin Ringsu could only change her tactics, stroking the sword of the angel's holy sword with her fingertips, and condensing the divine power in her body into a barrier in front of her, thereby blocking the flying Haolan force fields. However, after those Haolan force fields touched her divine power barrier, they exploded one after another, consuming the divine power in her body. If she continued to consume it like this, the situation would definitely be unfavorable to her, so Jin Ringsu moved again. The divine power barrier in front of her was originally used by her to buy herself a moment of time, and her attack would come after that. Below, whether it was the soldiers of the Heaven Dao Empire or the spirit masters of the Spirit Hall, they were all looking up at this thrilling battle of gods, and they were all secretly hoping that the gods on their side would win the battle. In the military camp of the Heaven Dao Empire, Tang Hao, Tang Zio, Master, Liu Erlong, Flanders, the Shrek 7 Devils, Zhu Beng, Douluo, Ning Fengzi and others were all there, and they were all nervously watching the war going on in the air. "Grandmaster, I didn't expect Bibi Dong to become a god as well." Fortunately, Xia Liu showed up in time, otherwise Xia Zhen would be in danger. Liu Erlong, Xia Liu dared to directly join the battle between gods. "Has he become a god now?" Tang Hao shook his head slightly and said, "No, he is only level 96 now." Tang Zio said, "It seems that he already had the strength of a god when he was level 96. Grandmaster said, Xia Liu is the first 3-life martial soul in the history of Douluo continent. It is no exaggeration for him to create any miracle. He can have the same strength as a god at level 96. Perhaps it is because his 3 martial souls now have complete soul rings and are of extremely high quality, plus he has 6 main soul bones, and may have the amplification of multiple external soul bones." Flanders sighed, "I can't imagine how powerful Xia Liu will be when he reaches the god level." Douluo laughed, "Then he will definitely be invincible both in heaven and on earth." Hearing this, Dai Mubei smiled slightly. This is his national teacher. He is also in the Xiandao army. But it is a place that is deliberately ignored by all the Xiandao army. Mu Jing, Yi Lingling, Lu Qifen, Su Yu, and Su Chen, the 5 of them are here, watching this god-level battle. At their current level, watching this level of battle can bring them unexpected benefits, and the reason why they are here is that Tang Liu arranged it for them in advance. However, after this battle, they must separate. Therefore, the 5 people also cherish this last time together. It should be able to hold on for a while. Today's 7 updates are presented. All readers are welcome to find bugs and typos. Chapter 368, Battle continued. But at the moment the battle just started, Suyu had been in a state of mental instability, especially when she saw the golden trident held in the hand of sea god Tang San. Her brain seemed to be filled with a lot of information in an instant, but it was also like her memory broke some of the shackles in her mind. And those memories that were somewhat strange in her senses, but felt extremely familiar, almost made her whole body confused. And among those chaotic scenes, the most repeated one was a golden trident, fiercely piercing a body in blue clothes. And she could only see a wisp of fluttering golden hair except for the bright red blood. She will kill him. And she almost screamed out. She's going to kill him. She's going to kill him. She looked at her companions around her almost begging, we must stop her. Mu Jing looked at Suyu, whose mental state was already unstable, and slowly clenched an object emitting blue light in her hand. In the sky, the battle between gods continued. When another god appeared in the spirit hall, the morale of Xiandao was somewhat low. But when Tang Liu came to the rescue and fought a god slanderer from the spirit hall, the low morale rose again. Every soldier present had heard about the battle of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition 10 years ago. Even though some of them may not have seen the Shrek students fighting on the field, they had heard about how they defeated the Spirit Hall Academy. After that, the deeds of the Shrek Seven Devils that occasionally spread on the Douluo continent were all inspiring. Of course, after the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition, there was almost no news about Tang Liu, but Tang Liu was remembered by everyone on the continent. It was just because he had already achieved the cultivation of a soul saint 10 years ago. And now, he can fight a god slanderer on equal terms. The moment he appeared, the two gods of the Spirit Hall were terrified. How could the soldiers of Xiandao not feel excited and excited? Each of them stared at the battle between the gods in the sky, fearing that they would miss this battle that touched the hearts of everyone present. Even though most of them did not have high soul power, they could still benefit a lot from watching a war of this level, and they might even be able to break through their soul power level. In general, this battle perfectly caught everyone's heartstrings. And from the surface, this battle between the gods was also extremely tense. At least the battle between the sea god and the Rakshasa god was like this, and every step was thrilling. But it was different for Tang Liu and Jinriksu. Although they tried hard to create the appearance of a life and death duel, in fact, the two of them were tacitly aware of each other and did not fight with all their strength. Even though the noise made by the two was no worse than that of the sea god and the Rakshasa god, it was just a facade for people of their level, and it could not actually cause any real harm to them. Tang Liu and Jinriksu also talked while fighting and testing each other. Simple, spell-like soul skills, unless they can be used instantly, are unlikely to have the desired effect in battles at this level. All battles will eventually be simplified to a punch, a palm, a sword, and a gun. And the simplest attack method has the power to easily destroy everything below. In a battle where everything is simplified, this attack method often only needs to seize an opportunity to determine the final victory or defeat. Tang Liu and Jinriksu have not yet reached the point where their fists and palms touch each other, and each collision is just a contest between their respective weapons. Although the Blue-Silver Spirit Emperor Spear is invisible and intangible, under Tang Liu's control, it can still collide with Jinriksu's Angel Sword like a physical entity, and because of the special nature of the Blue-Silver Spirit Emperor Spear itself, it does not lose the upper hand even when fighting against the artifact Angel Sword. Every time the Blue-Silver Spirit Emperor Spear and the Angel Sword met, a large area of blue and golden light flashed in the sky, almost filling up half of the sky. This was also the result of the constant confrontation and collision of the powers in Tang Liu and Jinriksu, and then the evenly matched power burst out, which finally manifested as the two colors of light flashing in the sky. Every time the two different powers burst out, they brought a strong pressure to the Xiandao soldiers below. Even though their soul power cultivation was not too high, they could still clearly feel that the two energies that had been took for tat above, even if only a little bit was leaked out, could make them disappear in an instant. Compared with the seemingly magnificent battle between Tang Liu and Jinriksu, the sea god Tang San and the Rakshasa god Bibidong seemed to have restrained their attack strength at the same time, so it seemed that the movement of the two people's battle was much smaller than that of Tang Liu and Jinriksu. But this kind of battle without much noise is countless times more dangerous than the battle between Tang Liu and Jinriksu, who tacitly let each other win. After all, Tang San and Bibidong don't have a deep bond. They are completely hostile to each other. This battle is destined to be a life and death duel between the two of them, and it is also the final battle that concerns the future of the entire Douluo continent. At the beginning, the momentum of their battle was just like that of Tang Liu and Jinring Su, with earth-shaking power, but I don't know since when, Tang San and Bibi Dong have consciously compressed the energy of each of their attacks as much as possible, and ensure that the power of each of their attacks can be fully applied to the other party. In this way, every time the two fight, the destructive power increases exponentially. Since the compression of power requires extremely strong control, the battle between the two has become more dangerous. If it was just a one-on-one fight, Tang San would not be afraid of Bibi Dong. He even had several ways to perfectly deal with Bibi Dong. But now he chose the one with the most unknowns. This was also the reason why he wanted to make a quick decision, so as to ensure that he would have enough state to complete what he should do next. So what about Bibi Dong? She followed her own rhythm and also chose to attack with all her strength to deal with him. Why? What did she want to do? I didn't expect that I would still miss it in March. I didn't even have the guarantee 10,000 words. I feel so sorry for you. April 1st is April Fool's Day. I really hope that I am just joking with you, and then hundreds of thousands of words will be posted the next moment. Dreams should be dreamed at night. During the day, I will still write my university physics and physics experiment reports. But Qingming Festival is coming. There is nothing much to say. I wish you all a happy Qingming Festival in advance. Cross out the whole sentence. The author of Qingming, you can still write even if you are gone. In short, I am really honored that you have decided to stick with me, even if you have to wait for a month. In the remaining days of 2021, I hope I can accompany you, and you who have always been with me, to the final ending of this book together. In fact, the author has gone through the final ending in his mind many times, but this kind of small ending is a bit neglected, so it is stuck. In addition, I have been rewatching Xiu Liao, studying physics, doing experiments, sleeping when I have free time, etc., so I am stuck until now. I am melancholy. Chapter 369 Rakshasa Shura. At this moment, Tang San suddenly found that he could not see through Bibi Dong. When she inherited the position of Luosha God and appeared in front of him again, she seemed to have taken off something from herself. Recalling everything that happened next, Tang San always had an incredible illusion. The Luosha God who had been fighting with him until now seemed to be covered with a layer of fog. It made her look like Bibi Dong, but she seemed not to be. From the moment he began to understand Bibi Dong, the fixed impression of Bibi Dong in his mind was that she was a ruthless and decisive spirit hall pope. In addition, she was also a titled Douluo with twin spirits, divine inheritance, and superb talent. At least, Bibi Dong reached the realm of titled Douluo much earlier than himself. So, for himself who was just a soul sect at that time, Bibi Dong had the opportunity and ability to easily put himself to death and let himself die before he grew up. But she didn't. Why? Because Tang Hao came out to save him at that time? Or because of the bond between Master and her? It's possible. But now, in Tang San's eyes, that was not enough. At that time, Tang Hao was seriously injured, and the Spirit Hall had more than one title Douluo. If Bibi Dong wanted to, she would definitely be able to keep Tang Hao forever. What's more, at that time, the Spirit Hall also had the peerless Douluo Jindao Liu. And Master, to be honest, although all the stories he had heard so far showed that Bibi Dong was Master's first love, for so long, Tang San had never seen the slightest bit of nostalgia for Master in Bibi Dong. On the contrary, a few years ago, he could still feel many shadows of Bibi Dong from Master. If Bibi Dong had not completely cut off the past with Master, then Bibi Dong was really hiding it too well. But in any case, would Bibi Dong really let go of a genius spirit master that she wanted to get rid of because of a relationship that had already ended, and she didn't know if there was any lingering nostalgia for the past with Master? Tang San felt a strange feeling in his heart. It was not an ominous premonition, but it still made him feel a little uneasy. Since Bibi Dong dared to let herself grow up all the way, and even let herself become a deity, then what exactly was she doing this for? And now she appeared in front of him again after becoming a deity, and was fighting with him with an attitude that seemed to be desperate, but also seemed to be careless. Tang San felt that something was not good, and began to get impatient. So, the blue divine power that belonged to him, which was gentle and tolerant, gradually became stained with an ominous blood red. Bibi Dong's attack stopped because of the appearance of the red light. She stared at Tang San quietly, or to be more precise, at the blood red light that began to linger around Tang San. It was at this moment that she who had been expressionless and fighting like a machine from beginning to end, finally couldn't help but raise the corners of her lips. Her divine weapon, the sickle of the Rakshasa god, turned into a stream of light and merged into her body. Her hands naturally drooped on both sides of her body, but her 10 fingers were slightly bent at different arcs, and at the same time, a purple-black light like mist gradually condensed in the palms of her hands. Bibi Dong looked at Tang San not far away with a fiery gaze. It was a look of desire and impatience that had been suppressed for a long time. Whether it was Bibi Dong's suddenly excited look or the purple-black mist in her palm, Tang San's heart was instantly alarmed. He did not hesitate at all. Black-red light instantly condensed on his hands and turned it into a sharp sword. Then he controlled the blood-red sword and rushed towards Bibi Dong. The red blood sword rushed towards Bibi Dong with an invincible momentum. Facing this blow that was enough to easily kill a first-level god, Bibi Dong was not afraid at all, but laughed out loud. She raised her hands as if she was looking for death, and made a hugging gesture without a defense posture, watching the red blood sword pointing directly at her heart. The purple-black light mist in her hands suddenly brightened, and a mysterious purple rune suddenly appeared on the path that the red blood sword had to pass. It was a little shaky, but it still firmly blocked the tip of the sword that was about to pierce Bibi Dong's heart. The red and black light on the red blood sword immediately entangled with the purple and black light. But the rune that blocked the blood sword was not moved at all, and still maintained the state that seemed to be about to collapse. But it just didn't break. Tang San, whose thoughts were full of twists and turns, put his hands back to his side with a solemn face. When he saw that Bibi Dong was completely defenseless in the face of his God King level attack, he was also surprised. But when the purple rune appeared and blocked his attack, he didn't feel any surprise in his heart, but felt that it should be so. But the next moment, something even more surprising happened, because the purple rune that looked shaky but had been in a stalemate with a red blood sword suddenly broke and disappeared at this moment. The red blood sword was no longer blocked, and it directly pierced into Bibi Dong's heart, and then quickly disappeared. As the initiator of the attack, Tang San naturally understood that the red sword did not disappear, but completely merged into Bibi Dong's body, and in an instant, it shattered all the meridians in her body, and also completely shattered her soul. This is why his attack could directly kill a first-level god. But this shouldn't be the case, because the time that the purple rune bought for Bibi Dong just now was enough for her to take many countermeasures, such as quickly fleeing and avoiding the lock of the red blood sword. But Bibi Dong did nothing, and was hit by the red blood sword, and her life was taken away along with the disappearance of the red blood sword. Just when Tang San felt confused and uneasy about this, he saw a scene that almost suffocated him. Bibi Dong, who was about to die, slowly raised her right hand, and on the fingertips of her right hand, there was a little blood-red light that Tang San felt very familiar with, flowing through the fingertips of Bibi Dong like mist. Even if he shouted in his heart that it was impossible, Tang San had to admit the fact that his assurant power was absorbed by Bibi Dong. But what's the use? She's almost dead. What's the use even if she absorbs his assurant power? Bibi Dong stared at the blood-red assurant power flowing through her fingertips with an obsessed look, and her face, which had turned green and fanged, revealed an expression of great satisfaction. Even though her life was almost completely cut off. Finally this moment. Finally she murmured silently, and finally laughed wildly, her body falling down weakly. Today I will keep the end of this month. I can't postpone it anymore. It has been postponed for 2 months. Rubbing face. In addition, originally this chapter did not have the plot that Tang San used the power of Azure God to fight Bibi Dong, and then Bibi Dong absorbed some of the power of Azure God. But as the author was writing, he thought of the ending of one division, which was one red and one purple, so why not make a unilateral connection? Doge. Chapter 370, Rakshas's Sorrow. When the ominous red light appeared on Tang San's body, the two people who were paddling tacitly on the other side also looked over there at the same time. The difference was that Jin Ringsu felt a fatal threat from the faint bloodlight surrounding Tang San, while Tang Liu looked at the red light and suddenly had a bad premonition for some reason. In a trance, he seemed to see some blurry pictures, and those pictures that he couldn't even see clearly made him feel an indescribable sense of uneasiness and sadness. His brain instantly associated some memory fragments that might be related to this. It was a memory of unknown origin that he inadvertently saw from Su Yu's mind. The endless sea, the endless ice fields and icebergs. I saw some very interesting things. Let me guess, you saw it from the mind of that little girl named Su Yu. So, that's what you put in Su Yu's head. Of course, no, I don't have the time, then it should be the work of the yin-yang soul refining abyss. In addition to the Kyankan questioning valley being connected to the divine world, is this yin-yang soul refining abyss also? I think that the yin-yang soul refining abyss just happened to give birth to some power of time. After all, based on the two elements of light and darkness, there is a certain probability of touching the chaotic origin of yin and yang, and then evolving some power of time. Oh, then what I saw, could it be the future? Correction, it's one of countless possible futures. Then, in a possible future, my own brother actually wants to kill me. Do you think it's possible? There are so many possibilities in the future. Even if the probability is low, isn't there always a future where the worst will happen? Maybe you are right, maybe, in a future he doesn't know, his brother will actually want to kill him. And Jinriksu would actually block the deadly Sigurd trident for him. This seemingly impossible and absurd future might be the future he is heading towards now. The scattered blood beads and fluttering golden hair in his memory seemed to be gradually becoming real, as if they would suddenly happen in front of him when he was not paying attention. Tang Liu closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then opened them again. Jinriksu was still not far from him, staring at the battle between Tang San and Bibi Dong on the other side. The red blood sword and the purple rune were in a stalemate, and it seemed that neither of them would give in. But no one expected that the purple rune would break so cleanly in the next moment, and the speed of the red blood sword would be so fast that even if Jinriksu had already rushed out at full speed at the moment the purple rune broke, she could only watch the blood sword disappear in front of Bibi Dong, and watched Bibi Dong finally fall to the ground powerlessly, and gradually dissipate the last vitality in the air. Jinriksu only had time to catch Bibi Dong's body and carefully brought her to the ground. She was speechless, and she didn't know what she should say at this time. She just looked at Bibi Dong's eyes that no longer had any luster, watched her restore her original beautiful face, and looked at the remaining madness and relief on that face. She didn't know what was wrong with her now, but she felt that her heart was suddenly empty, and soon after, the empty heart was filled with confusion and sadness again. Maybe, she felt that there should be sadness. But she didn't quite understand why she felt sad. Bibi Dong was her mother. This was an indisputable fact. But in all of Jinriksu's memories, it seemed that there were not many memories of Bibi Dong as a mother. Since she was born, she has carried all of Bibi Dong's disgust for Jin's Unji. She can't expect, and perhaps she is not qualified to expect a woman who never wanted to give birth to her, but was forced by a force she couldn't resist and had to endure all the pain and humiliation, to fulfill the responsibilities that a mother should fulfill. Without her, without what Kyank Sunji did, the person she should call mother should have lived a happy life with her beloved, with a child of their love, a boy or girl that she would truly, wholeheartedly, and willingly give everything to love. But not her. Because of her birth, every time she appeared in front of Bibi Dong, every time Bibi Dong heard her name, she would only think of that painful and desperate night, even if she actually had no memory of it, even if she didn't let anyone know in the end, and successfully killed Kyank Sunji and avenged herself. But the dirty soul and body, and the past that could not be redeemed. What about those things that destroyed the once innocent and lively beautiful girl? Jinriksu felt helpless for the first time. And those helpless feelings deeply strangled the emotions hidden in the deepest part of her heart, and finally condensed into tears in her eyes, like a broken pearl necklace. Before it could fall on the dirty mud and splash, it had already turned into faint golden light and dissipated. Countless complicated emotions finally pushed her to hug Bibi Dong, kissing her cheek and rubbing her cold forehead. I'm sorry, what are you doing in my Douluo palace? I am the Pope of the Spirit Hall. In theory, this is the Elder Hall of my Spirit Hall. It is one of my lands. I have the right to enter my land at any time, and no one can stop me. Your Majesty, the Pope is joking. In theory, everything in the Spirit Hall belongs to you, and this Douluo palace is no exception. I have no intention of stopping your Majesty the Pope. It's just that this Douluo palace is my grandfather after all. Before she finished speaking, she was interrupted impatiently. Did Jin Daolia just train you to be a little girl who only relies on all his reputation? If I had known this, I should not have kept him in charge of the Douluo palace for so many years. Your Holiness, my grandfather is the former elder of the Douluo palace after all. He holds a high position in the Spirit Hall. Please show him the proper respect. The beautiful woman sneered twice. You only know how to call him Grandpa, and then rely on this to survive in the Spirit Hall. She glared at her and said in the same cold voice, if your Holiness has no other matters to deal with this time, I'm sorry I can't keep you. The woman suddenly said, Are you going to drive your mother out like this? She was stunned, because the woman's words just now caught her off guard. Chapter 371 Angel's Wound. After a long while, she smiled coldly. Mother? So you know you are my mother. But have you ever fulfilled your mother's duty for a day? The woman was silent for a long time, as if she was hurt by the strange and sarcastic expression on her face. So in the end, the woman just said, I know you have successfully inherited the throne of the God of Angels. She looked at her vigilantly, and said with a sneer, so what? The woman looked at her deeply, as if she wanted to imprint her whole person in her eyes. Take care of yourself in the future, the woman said. Soon, no one will be able to help you. After that, the woman turned and left. She was stunned for a moment, and then shouted at the woman's back, Are you threatening me? The woman couldn't help laughing, turned her head and looked at her. This look made her stunned. Because in those beautiful eyes, there was an emotion that he had never seen or felt before. If you think so, then so be it. The woman finally left only this sentence, and then disappeared. She was left in a daze in the strange feeling of that look. A very light breeze blew over. Someone slowly fell from the sky, the corners of their clothes still swaying in the air. Jin Ringsu didn't look, but just hugged Bibi Dong, staring at the land on the side with lifeless eyes, gently shaking her body, like coaxing a child, as if Bibi Dong was just asleep. Tang Liu looked at the bodies of Jin Ringsu and Bibi Dong in silence. He felt it, and there was no trace of Bibi Dong's soul left around. The power of the sure blood sword was extremely overbearing. If there was no strength to take it, the soul would be scattered under its power. At this moment, Tang Liu couldn't say anything to comfort her. He thought that Jin Ringsu might not be able to accept his comfort now, and she was not allowed to ask for comfort from anyone. So he just stood there, watching them from a distance, leaving them a separate space. But the next moment, a somewhat turbulent airflow full of cold murderous aura swept over, causing the corners of his clothes, which had already stabilized, to sway again uncomfortably. At this time, the girl who was almost the focus of everyone's attention, her golden hair was also blown up by the airflow. The empty girl finally had some reaction. She looked at the bright red figure that brought the airflow. Tang San, with red hair and cold murderous aura all over his body, looked at Jin Ringsu without any emotion in his blood-red eyes and said, Jin Ringsu, as long as you lead the spirit wall to retreat and declare surrender, I can let you go. Jin Ringsu's empty eyes fell on his face for a moment, and then moved away again, staring at the soil on the ground beside him. Tang San frowned and was about to speak again, but was stopped by a figure that suddenly appeared in front of him. Give them some time. Tang Liu looked at his brother who was full of murderous aura in front of him, and his eyes looked at his now blood-red eyes without any retreat. She will figure it out. Tang San just looked at him, looking at him intently, as if he wanted to see through him completely, inside and out. The breath of the God King sure would make Tang Liu feel a little uncomfortable, but he still restrained his third martial soul, hail and magic, and did not let it release at this time. But even so, the cold murderous aura that seemed a little agitated around Tang San would become gentle when he approached Tang Liu. It was unknown whether Tang Liu was really special or Tang San did it on purpose. Let me talk to her, she will understand, Tang Liu said. His tone was like comforting, but also like a request. The murderous aura around Tang San seemed to fade a little. He looked into Tang Liu's eyes and said to Tang Liu for the first time as sure God, why? Tang Liu frowned slightly. Why do you think of talking to her? Talk to the daughter of the murderer who forced our mother to death? Tell me, Xiao Liu, why? Tang Liu opened his mouth. He had many reasons to deal with the current situation, and he could use them to refute Tang San at this time. But for some reason, he looked at Tang San, who looked calm, and thought about his calm tone just now, which didn't seem to question him, but he couldn't speak. Tell me, why? Xiao Liu, Tang San pressed on step by step. Although the murderous aura around Tang San had been completely restrained, his aura was too peaceful at this time, not like the appearance of Shurigod at all, completely, just like an ordinary conversation and inquiry. But Tang Liu still vaguely felt a threat hidden under the calmness. It made him confused, puzzled, and unbelievable. It made him feel like he was stabbed hard somewhere in his body, and the pain made his throat bitter. It made him feel like he was in the center of the bitter and cold far north, and the coldness that seeped from his bones made him shiver. Why do you want to excuse our enemies? Why do you want to give your little sympathy to our enemies? Why, Xiao Liu, why? Tang San took a step forward, and the distance between him and Tang Liu was almost only a fist away. He looked at the brother in front of him who was almost a head shorter than him, and looked at the blue in his hair and eyes. Why do you lie to us and your family, but have unnecessary sympathy for your enemies? Tang Liu raised his head slightly to look at his red eyes. Do you think that is unnecessary sympathy? Tang San took it for granted, isn't it? Tang Liu looked away and no longer looked into his eyes. The Tang San I know would never think that way. Tang San was stunned for a moment. You are not Tang San at this moment, not my brother, you are just sure a god. Tang San frowned, subconsciously took a step back, raised his hand and pressed his temple. Since you insist on talking to her, then go ahead. Tang Liu looked at him deeply, then turned around, slowly walked to Jinriksu, half squatted down, and whispered to her, let's go, take her and leave here first. After a while, Jinriksu looked at him, still with empty eyes. Will you go with me? Tang Liu subconsciously looked at Tang San not far away, and happened to see him looking at him. Tang Liu turned back and looked at Jinriksu again, apologetically, but shook his head firmly. Then he saw that the little light that had just appeared in the eyes of the girl in front of him suddenly went out. It disappeared quietly and insignificantly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 You Want My Life, Here I Come. Tang Liu watched Jinriksu lower her head again, and gently pressed her cheek against Bibi Dong's forehead. I've made up my mind. After waiting for an unknown amount of time, Tang Liu heard the girl's voice become somewhat weak. The sacred golden light began to spread outward, pushing the defenseless Tang Liu far away. Jinriksu stood up, her empty eyes looked at Tang San not far away, and white gold flames began to burn on her body. She was burning. Burning divine power, burning divine soul, burning godhood, and godhood. Burning everything about herself. The sky suddenly darkened, and dark clouds gathered. Soon there were lightning and thunder, and heavy rain poured down. That was the whole world crying for a god who was about to disappear completely. Bibi Dong died, but her position as the Rakshasa god was still there, but it was very likely that no one would be able to inherit this position in the future. But Jinriksu was different now. She chose to burn, and burn everything to ashes. Once the angel's flames released all the light and heat, it would burn all the glory and honor. There will be no more angel god on this world. The girl with platinum flames wrapped around her body and golden wings spread out behind her, her eyes were still empty without any change. She just looked at Tang San and said in a dead voice, Tang San, my father once killed your mother, and now, you have killed my mother with your own hands. We should be even. Tang San looked at her calmly, without replying, but there was a cold murderous aura around him again. But, it was not me or my mother who killed your mother. But you still choose to force me again and again. The platinum flame condensed in her hand and turned into the most dazzling angel holy sword from ancient times to the present. Even though it was pouring rain, lightning and thunder, the burning angel god, her divine light still illuminated the dark clouds in half of the sky. Forgive me for not agreeing, forgive me for not retreating until death comes to me. She held a bright angel holy sword, without any fancy moves, just strode towards Tang San, raised the sword, and slashed again. But such a simple blow contained all the power of the angel god. Tang San would not sit still and wait for death. He casually drew out his right hand and waved it lightly in front of him. The angel holy sword stopped, and then, as if it had been attacked by something terrible, it broke into pieces, dissipated into faint light, and disappeared between heaven and earth. Tang San put down his right hand, which was holding a blood-red long sword. The Shura God super artifact, the Shura sword. The gap between the God King and the first level God is not as simple as the two circles of light on the surface. Looking at Jinriksu who had no intention of stopping, Tang San did not hesitate at all and stabbed forward with his sword. With a crisp hum, the Shura blood sword, which was more than 100 meters long, directly pierced Jinriksu's body and chopped her off far away. But Jinriksu was not dead yet. After all, she burned everything she had. But she was not far from death, because for a dual-position God King, the difference between swinging one sword or two swords was the same for a first-level god who burned everything. Jinriksu, who was pierced by the blood sword of Azura and sent flying, was already lying on the ground, unable to stand up again. Her empty eyes stared at the sky, watching the blood red gradually devour the gold. Her body was almost completely transformed into a white gold flame, which also meant that soon, she would be completely dead and disappear. Tang San did not intend to give her the time to take a last look at this world. The blood sword of Azura slashed at her again. She felt that her life was about to be completely destroyed by this sword. But she did not move, just watched quietly, watching the blood sword of Azura getting closer and closer to her. Closer and closer. Then when it was about to hide her, it suddenly deviated from its previous trajectory. Her life was extended a little. But she heard the sound of a strange object falling to the ground. Then there was the sound of a large amount of liquid gushing and dripping on the ground. Jin Ringsu suddenly felt uneasy, supporting herself to stand up half of her body. She saw Tang San, whose face was full of anger and disbelief. Then there was a figure half kneeling on the ground, clutching his right shoulder tightly, shaking slightly due to the pain. His blue clothes were now mostly stained with blood. Because below his right shoulder, there was nothing at this time. The right arm that should have been there was now alone on the side, surrounded and soaked by a large amount of blood. Jin Ringsu felt as if her head had suffered some kind of heavy blow, and suddenly became blank. At this moment, she seemed to be unable to feel the outside world anymore. But the voice of that person, she tried her best to deny, but had to admit that the voice she had been thinking about day and night, was like a poison that she could never get rid of, penetrating into her mind. Enough, brother, stop, she can't take your second attack. Tang San looked at Tang Liu, whose arm he had cut off, in shock and anger, with an expression of disbelief on his face. You actually did it for her. Tang Liu sealed the blood vessels in his shoulder, gritted his teeth and stood up, shook his head and said, I didn't do it for her, maybe a little, but I haven't realized it yet. Then why did you block this attack for him? If it wasn't for me just now, what just now? Tang Liu pressed on step by step. What just now, brother? Tang San didn't reply immediately. He looked at the Shura sword in his hand, a little dazed. I did what? He looked at Tang Liu again, looking at the gap in Tang Liu's right shoulder, looking at the arm lying on the ground. No, Xiao Liu, with a clang, the Shura sword fell to the ground, but in the next moment it turned into a red stream of light and merged back into Tang San's body. His eyes were always on Tang Liu's broken arm, and then his body trembled. Brother, you just cut off one of my arms. Is this something you would do? Tang San shook his head, his eyes still fixed on where Tang Liu's right hand should have been. No, that was you suddenly rushing over, you suddenly blocked her way. Tang Liu interrupted him, I was already there, but you still let the blood sword of Azura fall without hesitation. You just subconsciously let the blood sword of Azura deviate when it was about to cut me in half from head to toe. Tang San listened to him, his eyes and face were full of disbelief. Tang Liu exhaled a breath of bloody breath, and colorful light flashed on his torso. The next moment, his arm was restored to its original state, as if it had never been cut off by the blood sword of Azura. You want to kill me, brother? And now, I'm right in front of you. Alice, the author was busy with several exams for several courses this month, and then couldn't help but read a few comprehensive British and American novels, and then found that compared to the wives who have been stuck for several years and haven't updated yet, am I still a little bit better? Dodge, ha. Okay, see you tomorrow. I wish you all a happy May Day holiday. Chapter 373 Cause, Effect, and Fall to the Dark Side. All the rules in this world are nothing more than three: time, fate, and cause and effect. No matter from which aspect, they are the most difficult to be influenced, used, or even controlled. Even if they are only slightly related to them. Especially at some time, when you have to be involved with them for some reasons beyond your control. You think you have influenced them, you think you have controlled everything, and you think everything that comes next is within your expectations. However, their mysterious power still eventually leads you to the ending you tried hard to avoid. Make everything you did before seem like a joke. Because everything you did is just the inevitability that will lead you to that inevitable ending. It's very shameless and rogue. Tang Liu is very clear about his inevitability. He will eventually return to his world when everything is settled, ending this journey that seems like a dream, or perhaps it should be said that it is an experiment of some big people. But he still has some uncertainties, such as whether he will die suddenly before welcoming his own inevitability. Of course, perhaps that is also part of the inevitability. As for Tang San's inevitability, at present, he is destined to become the first dual God King in the history of the God Realm, an extremely powerful God King. Then he continued to secretly promote the development of Douluo continent, and even made a 10,000-year plan to make the life energy of Douluo star return to its peak, So that the abyss plane willingly stepped into this big picture and completely merged with Douluo star. As for what happened next, Tang Liu didn't know. After all, the plot he knew was only after Douluo III. At that time, Tang San and the God Realm had already been swept to an unknown place by the turbulence of time and space. Therefore, Tang San's inevitability can be briefly described in 2 words. Unknown. Since it is unknown, the inevitability in the process is naturally unknown. Not to mention that now this originally peaceful and stable moral world along an eternal timeline has added an external troublemaker like him. If people living in this world have even a little knowledge of this, I'm afraid they are unlikely to feel happy, and they may even hate him to the extreme. Then, Tang San. Could he be one of those who chose to hate him because they realized the truth? But, why? He had never thought of harming him. He even thought about him in every way, and even paved a lot of roads for him, making his life less painful and frustrated. He was complacent about having a brother, and he wanted his brother to no longer suffer those pains in the future. However, this person who he silently vowed to give everything for, at this moment, he actually wanted to kill him with his own hands. Why did he do that? What qualifications did he have? Was it just because he was an outsider? Why didn't he think about it carefully? Why didn't he think about it? He had no obligation to interfere with the tragedies that were bound to happen to him. He had no obligation to stand up and speak for him when Tang Hao was lukewarm to him, and even because of his participation, he himself suffered Tang Hao's pressure. If he had just watched coldly, everything that night would not have happened at all. Even if he was willing to pay attention, he could easily deprive Tang Hao of the love that he didn't care about at that time, bit by bit. A Tang San who was not guided correctly by Tang Hao. Where would that future go? But he didn't. He just gave his sincere heart like an idiot, and then was chopped to pieces by a ruthless sword. And it was the person he trusted completely. He didn't even ask him the reason. Never. He just made a move like that. Tang Liu looked at a brother across from him, who was struggling, hesitating, and made him feel so unfamiliar. His eyes quickly flashed with nostalgia, and then all disappeared in an instant, leaving only a little gloom. His left hand hanging by his side moved slightly, and a burst of colorful light quickly came from his torso, and together with the blue-black light of his Haolan magic itself, it flashed for a moment as his fingertips danced lightly. The next moment, the white-gold flame on Jinriksu behind him disappeared. The cause and effect that should have burned everything and disappeared completely was cut off and reversed, and then under the effect of Haolan's recovery, her state almost returned to its peak. However, Tang Liu did not restore Jinriksu's position as the god of angels. It's not that Tang Liu can't do it now, but because there is no need. However, it is useless to keep a mere god of angels who can't even beat the god of the sea. Instead, it will limit Jinriksu's development. Moreover, everything has a cause and an effect. Tang Liu used the power of cause and effect to reverse the effect of Jinriksu's complete death, but he did not reverse the effect of the complete disappearance of the position of the god of angels. Because the position of the god of angels was the cause that caused Jinriksu to completely dissipate and die, and it was also the price to be paid for reversing Jinriksu's death. Tang Liu could of course restore the position of the god of angels, but the price to be paid would become something else, and that was something that Tang Liu could not control for the time being, so there was no need to add more trouble to himself. Jinriksu, who had recovered from the crisis of death, trembled and propped up her body. Although her condition had been fully restored, she still couldn't stand up completely. Maybe that was one of the prices that needed to be paid. In short, Jinriksu, who suddenly recovered from the near-death state, was also extremely shocked. She knew very well that at this time, the only person who could save her life from the crisis of burning the throne was the man in front of her, who had just blocked a fatal blow for him and lost an arm. She felt happy and melancholy in her heart. He was very strong, and now he was even stronger than the gods with the strength of a tidal Douluo, and could even easily turn life and death. She didn't make a mistake. But she was insignificant to him. That made her feel lost again. Enemy, the only thing she could do was to look at the not too broad back and recite it in her heart. The moment she felt the activity in her body again and understood what happened, the only thought in her mind was to leave. Go with him. Even if he didn't want to take her with him, she would shamelessly follow him. Even if there was no result in the end. Yes, even if there would be no result. As long as her eyes could follow him all the time. Even if it's just to taste all the bitterness and sweetness alone. She is willing. The first day of the holiday has passed again in the sweet variety shows of Britain and the United States. But it is getting harder and harder to find good ones. Either they are pits, or they are not finished and have not been updated for a while. I wonder if there are any cute ones that can recommend good ones. Cyrillic letter Z. Chapter 374 Trust and Backing. Tang San never expected that things would turn out like this. Or rather, when he was expected by the gods to kill his brother with his own hands, everything was completely out of his calculations. It felt like in a level that he could not touch at all, there was a pair of hands that existed in the dark from the beginning to the end, trying to push everything. Those hands were everywhere, and all attempts to influence those hands would only aggravate the hands to achieve their ultimate goal, making people powerless to resist, and completely unable to think of resisting. Many times it is not that you don't want to go with the flow. It's that when you react, you are already in that river. While Tang San doubted himself, he watched Tang Liu reverse Jin Ringsu's death, and looked at his brother's eyes, which gradually changed from warm to calm, even cold. It was no longer the way he looked at him before. Thinking about it carefully, he seemed to have noticed something was wrong a long time ago. But his trust in himself is always far greater than his doubt. Until the sword just now. Although it was not a sword that was directly cut at Tang Liu. But he still chopped some things off with his own hands. Not just that arm. And the connection between them that should have been inseparable. He clenched his fists. But he still seemed to be trying, craving, and trying to save it. That's not me. That's not me. His murmur was like a whisper, the sound was barely audible. Like guilt, but also like a silent rebuttal. Pale and powerless. Tang Liu sneered, a flash of mockery in his eyes. He shook his right hand, adjusted to his arm, and then quickly walked towards Tang San. In the process of approaching Tang San, his body gradually burst out with an unusually dazzling blue light. Along with it, 9 circles of blue-black spirit rings appeared, circling around him, like a bright blue star, driving 9 planets, and crashing into Tang San without hesitation. If that was your apology just now, it was a bit too perfunctory. Without using those fancy spells, Tang Liu just lightly pressed his right palm against Tang San's chest, pointing directly at his heart. Tang San pulled back and avoided Tang Liu's attack. He looked into Tang Liu's eyes, pursed his lips, and then said, "No, I won't attack you." Tang Liu followed closely, still with the same palm as before. "What about the sword just now? I was just careless, accidental." The blue light around Tang Liu became more dazzling, and Tang San was hit by Tang Liu's attack. He was slapped away by the sudden burst of blue light. The sure sword appeared in his hand, protecting its master by itself, and blocking all the power of Tang Liu's attack. Tang Liu raised his eyebrows slightly. "Why, you want to use the sure sword to deal with me? You want to cut off another hand of mine?" Tang San stood up again, letting the sure sword turn into a stream of light and merge into his body. He looked straight at Tang Liu. "No, not anymore." Tang Liu raised his left hand and flicked his long fingers. 5 runes appeared around Tang San, evenly surrounding him. "In that case, I will accept the godhood of Sure God." As soon as he finished speaking, Tang San felt a strong section force suddenly generated in the 5 runes, and at the same time he found that the god power of Sure God in his body was rapidly fading away. Of course, if it was just the god power that was fading away, it would not be a big problem. After all, as long as there was time, the god power could be gradually restored. However, with the disappearance of the god power of Sure God, the foundation of the god position of Sure God was also shaken, as if it would leave him in the next moment, and be sucked away by the 5 runes around him along with the god power. If he did not do something, his godhood of Sure God might really be taken away. Tang San made a prompt decision and immediately switched the god position, replacing Sure God with Sea God. At the same time, Sea God trident appeared in his hand. Sure enough, when he used the power of Sea God, he could temporarily suppress and hide everything of Sure God. He didn't know if the previous Sea God and Sure God had arranged this on purpose. After all, the power of Sea God should not be able to suppress Sure God. But in this way, he could at least temporarily avoid the godhood of Sure God being taken away by Tang Liu. Then, he used the unfixed wind wave to circle all the 5 runes. As he expected, the 5 runes were also bound by the unfixed wind wave, temporarily losing the huge suction force against him. So, taking advantage of this opportunity, Tang San immediately broke away from the encirclement of the 5 runes. Although the unfixed wind wave that bound the 5 runes was broken at the next moment, it still couldn't pose a threat to him. Tang Liu stretched out his hand and the 5 runes flew back, hovering above his palm, and then all changed from blue-black to blood-red. Although he failed to absorb the godhood of Shurigod, the 5 runes were all the real power of Shurigod. After a little refining, they would be good treasures, so Tang Liu collected them. After that, he looked at Tang San again, and his face showed a slightly mocking smile again. Look at what you look like now. Even if the power of sea god flows in your body, you are still bloody. Tang San subconsciously looked at the strand of red hair floating in front of him. Tang Liu continued, in your body, the Shura sword, I can hear it telling you its desire all the time. It is urging you to pierce it deeply into my heart. Tang San subconsciously tightened the sea god trident in his hand because of his words. Tang Liu was right. The Azure sword was indeed constantly conveying urgent thoughts to him, and those thoughts deeply affected his Azure god position, making him constantly have that kind of impulse. He also immediately understood that it was the former Azure god of the god realm who asked him to hold on tight. Tang San looked at Tang Liu. So he held the sea god trident tighter. Tang Liu looked at his expression now and knew what he was thinking. Undoubtedly, Tang San was still very resistant to killing himself. The previous sword did not completely avoid him, which was largely affected by the Azure god. But in addition to resistance, Tang San still did not give up the idea of solving him. This solution may not be killing, and it may also be sealing, or turning him into a vegetative state. And that is the fundamental reason why Tang Liu felt chilled. No matter what those guys in the god realm said to Tang San, or what he showed him, Tang San finally chose to believe those gods. Or the mentality of killing 10,000 by mistake rather than letting 1,000 go. But he did not choose to believe him. Did not choose him, half of a small theater, Tang Liu. You would rather believe those gods who don't want to have anything to do with you than believe me, you bastard. I will never recognize you as my brother again. Tang San, trying to save the situation, I was just momentarily bewildered and believed in the evil of the Shura god Tang Liu. Sneer, goodbye, I'm going to find someone else to be my brother Tang San. Cacti Mu Bei, raising his hand, Zio Liu, come and check me out. The author is really running out of English and American articles on Xinjiang. I really want to go to the comments section and urge madam, please be hungry, rubbing my face, Cyrillic letter Z. However, the updates of the wives on Xinjiang are not stable, so in order to prevent myself from starving to death, I'll do it myself. Thumbs up. And it just so happens that I have several sweet ideas that I haven't written down yet. Hahohi, Greek letter Omega. Chapter 375 Chapter 371 Heading towards the final inevitability. Whether it was Tang San or Tang Liu, looking at each other at this moment, they felt both familiar and strange. Tang Liu was obsessed with judging Tang San's betrayal, while Tang San couldn't help but stubbornly wonder why he couldn't be given a chance. They both had their own obsessions, and this obsession would eventually detonate the pent-up and latent anger in their hearts. They rushed towards the sky at the same time, like 2 arrows from a bow. But it was like 2 gorgeous fireworks, with brilliant tail flames, blooming in the sky, one blue and one red, dangerous and beautiful. The sky was dyed with red and blue in the next moment, and it actually extended directly to the end of the sight. At a height that no one could see, every collision of red light and blue light made the sky tremble, as if it would suddenly collapse in the next moment. Every time the 2 opposite lights flashed in the sky, a terrifying pressure would be faintly transmitted. But all those who could perceive the pressure could also feel the depression contained in it. There seemed to be a reason that made the 2 people fighting in the sky consciously suppress their strength and not go all out. After all, no matter how you look at it, it shouldn't be to the point where they have to fight to the death. This battle of gods seemed to have too many twists and turns. From the beginning, the sea god fought against the angel god, to the sea god fighting the angel god and the Rakshasa god, and then the sea god fighting the Rakshasa god, and Tang Liu fighting the angel god. Then, the sea god Tang San actually had a second god position, the Azure god, and then the Rakshasa god died in the battle. After that, this battle of gods became more and more confusing for the people below. The angel god attacked the Azure god again, and was killed in seconds. But Tang Liu suddenly blocked the fatal blow of the Azure god for the angel god, so he was cut off an arm by the Azure god. Now, the Azure god Tang San has actually fought with Tang Liu. But aren't they 2 brothers? No one understood why things had turned out like this. They just stared at the 2-colored sky with confusion and palpitations, but they couldn't help whispering. In those whispered conversations, the most mentioned thing was the speculation about the reason why Tang San and Tang Liu would fight. Some people thought it was because of the sudden jealousy. Some people thought it was because of different ideas. Some people said it was betrayal. Some people said it was because of the angel god. If everyone's opinions were summarized, it was because of the angel god and his jealousy of Tang San's dual positions that Tang Liu chose to betray and help the spirit hall. After all the soldiers present came to attack the spirit hall and would not have a good impression of anyone in the spirit hall. When the Shura god Tang San was about to kill the angel god, most people were excited because Tang San killed the two gods of the spirit hall, Rakshasa and angel, one after another, with his own strength, which would naturally make their morale unprecedentedly high. Tang Liu's decision to save Jinriksu at the last moment obviously puzzled the soldiers and made them feel a little angry. Perhaps only a small number of people thought that it was because the angel god was about to disappear at that time, so Tang Liu stopped the Shura god Tang San from making the next unnecessary fatal blow. Perhaps it was because he didn't want his brother to be tainted with unnecessary killing sins or something. Therefore, the two who could not reach an agreement started fighting. But this idea was also shaky under the influence of the mainstream, and it seemed a little untenable. Most people still stood on Tang San's side. The angel god finally chose to burn everything he had. After burning everything, he would completely disappear and lose all threats. There is really no need to kill him personally. There are ancient records that although the Shura god is the master of justice and judgment, he is ultimately based on killing and slaughter. Tang San is likely to be affected by the position of god. The master's voice was not loud and his tone was peaceful, but it still spread far away, making the agitated soldiers gradually quiet down. The soldiers looked at each other because of the master's words. Judging from what the master said just now, he should be on Tang Liu's side? After the master finished speaking, he did not speak again, and his eyes were withdrawn from the sky and fell on Jinriksu, who was looking up at the ground, or rather, on the corpse not far behind Jinriksu. From then on, there was no Bibi Dong. The master said goodbye silently in his heart, and then clenched the hand of Liu Erlong beside him. The bond and cause and effect between him and Bibi Dong had been severed many years ago. When Bibi Dong died, he did not feel much grief in his heart, but more of a sense of loss. The master then looked at Tang Hao, who was staring at the sky beside him, and then said, "Your Majesty Haoshan, what do you think happened between Xiao San and Xiao Liu?" Obviously, their feelings have always been. Tang Hao did not reply, but just looked at the sky, clenching his fists tightly. If Tang Xiao had not been trying his best to stop him, he would have rushed over when he saw Tang Liu's right hand cut off by Tang San. Of course, it was only when he saw Tang Liu's arm recover that he relaxed his tense heart a little. Otherwise, even if Tang Xiao stopped him, he would have chosen to beat Tang Xiao first and then go over immediately. And now, he has always wanted to rush directly into the sky and pull those two little bastards down and beat them up. Everything was fine before, why did they suddenly fight? Tang Xiao sighed lightly, and something flashed in his eyes. He looked up at the sky and said softly, "Leave the young people's affairs to them. Besides, this is just a necessity to reach the final goal." He said the last sentence almost without making a sound, so everyone present could hear it clearly, and looked at him in confusion. Among the Shrek 6 monsters standing behind Tang Xiao and others, Daimyo Bei looked at Tang Xiao's back in a strange way, with doubt and understanding in his eyes, and then looked up at the sky again, quietly clenching his fists. At this time, everything in the National Master's mansion should be ready. I hope nothing goes wrong. Otherwise, he will never forgive himself. Perhaps Tang San and Tang Liu themselves could not realize that the battle between them had affected the hearts of so many people at the same time. They just paid attention to each other's attack intentions, constantly deduced and calculated in their minds, predicted the possible direction of the other party's next move, and then relied on one of their own soul skills to attack and counterattack, or defend and wait for the next opportunity. Even if neither of them used their full strength, the power contained in each of their attacks far exceeded that of the 99 level, titled Douluo. In other words, any outsider who wants to intervene needs to think carefully about whether he will be wiped out in the aftermath of the attack. Thanks to Sanju Hunayao for the reward, the backboard of the title of the previous chapter made me feel so embarrassed, and the author couldn't change it, Cyrillic letter Z, so everyone knows that there is no betrayal, only backboard QWQ. The author has really finished reading all the survival stories in Jinjing today, and suddenly felt so empty, and needed sweet little sugar cakes to fill myself, so I went to code the author's own comprehensive British and American. Good night everyone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.